gastrocs, anterior tib, peroneals, psoas, and quads.
There's not a lot.
Can you believe? I mean, in 10 hours, it's hard to get it covered in 10 hours because there's a lot to talk about. But, so, oh, and your group.
We got the weirdo muscles.
Yeah, they got the weirdo muscles, and I will tell y'all, as yoga teachers, we're talking about some muscles that are not really going to be any kind of focus in your yoga class. They're just there. And y'all got those weird muscles. So, sorry. I think we should do the psoas first.
We lost one of our members. We can do it without her.
Well, okay, well, wait. She went to get coffee?
Oh no, Mary?
Who?
Mary?
Yeah, she did. She went to get coffee. Well, let's just talk real quick. We'll start with the psoas. Hopefully she'll be walking in any minute. She just went to get coffee. Because it's a deeper muscle, then we'll do the quad group. Who's the quad group?
Nobody's.
All right, so we'll do, and what else do y'all have?
That's it.
Use the psoas? That's all I gave y'all?
We're at the last people you assigned.
Really? Okay. So we're going to do
It's very
psoas?
easy.
Yeah. we're like, okay.
Yeah, okay. Then the quads, and then we'll do that group, the group bracket with your muscles, even though some of those are deep and in the front.
You want me to find the book? Part.
And then the adductors. Who's the adductor? Good, okay. And that's everyone, right? Oh, no, then you're anterior. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, they move?
Yeah, just to get it, just to
You can call pectineus up at the same time you're doing the adductors.
Yeah, we can. I think I'll let y'all just do all of them at one time.
Okay. How are you like?
I don't know where my pen went.
I have an extra one.
There's a pencil right there. I don't know that one.
But thanks for sharing.
You can have that pencil. I'll have them.
Has anyone, does anyone know a 3D anatomical website that they can recommend? I told you all about two that I'll give you all the name of, but
I did stumble on one the other day and I was like, wow, I wish I had known about this, but I didn't read. I don't recall what it was.
okay, there's one called Yoga Functional Anatomy. It's an Israeli guy that did this. And he also did another one that's called Muscles in Motion. Now, I will say this. The Yoga Functional Anatomy is, to me, very incomplete and not exact with a lot of it, but it's not really anything, I didn't find anything really wrong there, but it's it's just incomplete. And it does not have a ton of yoga poses. It has maybe, I don't know, it has a few standing, a few twists. It's okay. It's okay for beginners, I think, to see it if you need to see it more. They'll show like the body in 3D and they'll show it moving and stuff. Then the Muscles in Motion is more like for weightlifting people, but for the purpose of learning muscle in greater detail, not related to yoga poses. It'll show the muscle and it'll say this is what the action is and then it'll do it. So we're going to get that here, but in case you can't remember that the middle deltoids do this, you can see it. I didn't try the Muscles in Motion, but it's the same guy that has both of those, and I paid for my prescription. You can get, I think, a 3-month, a 6-month, or a year, or like a 3-year one. Read the fine print very carefully, because if you buy the 6-month one, which is like $30, it'll automatically renew it every year, and you may not catch that. If you get the 6-month or the year or the 3-year one, it won't automatically renew it. This year one is like $50. My issue with it is it's not complete, and I had a problem logging in. Yeah, that's the Muscles in Motion one. Anatomy in Motion. Okay, that's another website then.
Because I Googled muscles.
Okay. There's a bunch out there. The two that I mentioned, I couldn't get in, and I couldn't get in to respond to my email until I called PayPal and did a dispute. Because it was like, I paid for it, but I couldn't log in. It locked me out. And so it was like, hello, let me in, respond to my email, or pay you back. But so you can check those out. I think you can do a free trial on those.
Is the website functionalanatomy.com?
I don't know. I think so. Maybe it's called Functional Anatomy. There's like a circle and someone doing warrior, like a picture, like a logo.
Okay.
think so, because it's the name of it.
We'll Google it, we'll find it. Thank you.
Read the fine print, because that's not the only, those aren't the only websites where I had an issue where it automatically renews it. So make sure you're not getting the one that automatically renews. Okay, let's do the psoas real quick. That's one of the deeper ones in the anterior part.
Yeah. Sure. Go away. I'll go back here.
You wrote it.
You want to start?
Right? Oh, do you want me to go on this side or this side?
It doesn't matter, but just also when you tape it, just say what it is that you're taping on.
Okay.
Not just doing, yeah. And it doesn't matter, whatever. We can do this side because it's going to be in the front.
All right. So, do you want to say it?
Sure. So the psoas or the iliopsoas is the blending of two muscles, and the first origin, which is for the psoas major, is what she's taping now, and it starts on the last 4 or 5 lumbar vertebra. And then the iliacus is the second sort of part that has a second origin. That's sort of it starts on the inside of this iliac crest. Maybe not on the edge, but like it's on the inside of the pelvis. So what she's doing there. And then the two muscles kind of blend together and then insert on the inside of the top of that femur.
Lesser. I'm sure it's in there.
Lesser trochanter. So the action is a really powerful hip flexor. So bringing that leg up or sitting up from reclining. And it also mentioned that it aids in thoracic and lumbar rotation. But I mean, the major function would be that flexor,
Did it say
right?
thoracic and lumbar rotation, or did it say like femoral rotation?
I don't know, I wrote,
Because it's not even attaching the thoracic spine. I don't think so.
no, okay.
No.
Does it help in lumbar rotation though?
I don't think so. I think it's just external rotation of the femur.
What page is it on?
It's on 62.
It starts with a, does it?
Yeah. It's the one that they call it like so. It's that finger on your book.
Am I making that up?
That was maybe that's not
Yeah, if you have an old book at 64.
I mean, it might be.
No, I have a new book.
Muscles of the anterior thigh.
Oh, I got it. Okay.
I didn't hear that.
If y'all see that anywhere, I don't think that's
I
right.
just heard.
Let me know.
What is it, what is right though? Would you say femur?
It helps with external rotation of the femur, but not rotation of the trunk, I don't think. It's okay. Sorry, y'all, there's something in my eyes again. Okay.
Well, maybe up here? Is it?
No, when she said thoracic, but it's only, it's transfer process of L2 to L5, so it's not even touching the thoracic. It's L, which is lumbar.
Its main purpose is the.
It's a hip flexor, and it may assist with a little bit extra rotation of the leg. Okay, all right. So the lesser trochanter, remember, is the inner part that we can't touch. We can't palpate that. We can't palpate the psoas. And some, I think, different manual therapists feel like they can kind of move everything around your intestines and your fat and whatever and kind of get in there. And I think that's possible. It's just, it can be, tricky to get through fascia. You're never going to touch right on the muscle because you got abdominals and fascia and stuff on top of it. So it's a deep muscle, and you were asking if it's a stabilizer. I would say anything that's really close to the joint is a stabilizer. And not even muscles that are close to the joint. Like little accessory muscles can be stabilizers also. And muscles that have an action that work in neutral against the other muscle that's opposite of it are stabilizing.
Right.
Um,
What would be its opposite muscle?
Well, if it's a hip flexor, then the extensors will do its opposite.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so it attaches to the transverse process of L2 through L5, and that's where they have it. These are the spinous processes, and you can touch them on your neighbor. They're the parts that stick out the most. And the transverse processes are on the side, right here, and they're deep under a bunch of paraspinals, thick muscles around the spine. So you can't really palpate those. And so they're attaching to the transverse processes. Did it say anywhere in there that it helps with a little bit of side bending? Did anyone see that in action?
Is the origin, wait, which one is the origin?
The origin is the transverse process. Okay. And so I gotta tell y'all, in one of these anatomy books, something that struck me that I liked, that I thought was interesting, was they were talking about the diaphragm and how the expansion of the belly versus expansion of the rib cage, and origin moving the insertion, and anatomy had it wrong for a long time, and that this is really the origin, not the insert. Anyway, with the hip flexors, the spine is the origin, the lesser trochanter is the insertion, so this moves towards this. However, it is active when you come forward like this, because I think this sort of kicks in a little bit and helps the trunk move this way. So technically, origin, insertion moves to origin, but in some cases, it's also active the other way. It's still contracting, it's still active that way. Okay, so it's not black and white, clear cut, sharp angles with anatomy. In this case, yes, it's active when you do the trunk flexion, coming this way or this way, it's still active.
It does talk a little bit about Trikonasana and how it's contracted on one side and stretched on the other.
And it's, yeah, it's contracted and shortened, but not necessarily working.
Not
It's just
working.
in its shortened position.
Okay. Well,
Now another thing is, you have the iliacus and the psoas, and then you have a psoas minor in your book. It's very much alive and present. It's not really. They don't even talk about it in my like the anatomy class I did in PT school. It's like it's just not there for everyone or most people, or not there enough to even separate it from the psoas. So if you have someone who's done a lot of reading, they'll be like, well, there's also the psoas minor. Not really. I mean, yes, some people have that. There's some muscles that not everyone has. So it's really made up of a couple muscles here and one that starts in this bowl right here, and they both come to this lesser trochanter. Okay?
What about that lateral flexion?
You know, I kind of feel like looking at it that it may do a little bit of it, but let me look into that. Really, it's a hip flexor for real, big time hip flexor and a little external rotator. It's just a little external rotation. But it's a hip flexor. It's a very powerful hip flexor, along with another muscle we'll talk about in a minute. All right? So this is that.
Is that second attachment iliac crest? Is that high enough to be iliac crest, or what?
It's not actually on the crest. It's kind of on the inside.
So what do you say
iliac
that for the
iliac
origin?
fossa,
How do you
the
say it?
bone.
It's a fossa, yeah, or below the iliac crest anteriorly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So one stretch we talked about was Ekapada Rajakapatasana,
Okay.
the pigeon, which I'm not very flexible, but and there would be the back.
Yeah.
That would be stretched. Oh gosh.
I can never.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great.
And then another one was the bridge pose. Do you want to show that one? Or do you-
Are we all okay with Bridget? Do you want to visualize that?
No.
Okay.
And when we say that's a stretch, because I'm not seeing. I don't know, Maggie. Is that a good stretch for it, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely moving into a lengthened position. I wouldn't say that should be like a great stretch to be proud of, but it will stretch that area. And for someone who's
Okay.
really tight, they may really feel something there. But
And if you have your sacrum on a block and you tuck your foot underneath,
absolutely, yeah,
The
Yeah.
supported one,
a
yeah.
supported bridge. Yeah. You want to show them that one?
That would be more like hero, like the reclined hero though.
Yeah, but some people can't do recline hero and may be able to do this one, but still they can't.
this is hard. I mean, it's hard for people to do it.
It's hard.
They'll bark at you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so what I do if they can't do that, in order to stretch the front of the hip here, is I have them straighten that leg, and hug this knee in.
Oh, yeah,
And then
because
they
you're
get a
still
stretch
getting an
there.
opening.
Which could you also just do that on the ground, like when you pull one leg down and
You're not gonna get as much of a stretch because you're
because
flat
you got the
versus-
arch, yeah.
Yeah, versus when
What about, what do they call it, crescent or proposal pose? That would,
Yes.
that's a good one.
Uh-huh.
As a stretch?
Yes.
Proposal pose.
Show it.
Actually, it's not proposal pose. It's really Ardha Hanumanasana because proposal pose is more. I tell people don't
Okay.
do proposal pose. Bend into it more like that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the back leg that's getting it.
And then
Upward dog, right?
Yep. Yep, it'll stretch that. And cobra.
What about straight Hanumanasana? Not.
Oh yeah, definitely in the
Yeah.
back leg. Yeah.
Who was talking about alternating the hips in up dog?
Oh, that's Caroline showed me that.
Little, kind of
Yeah.
feel like cuddling, but with your hips instead of your hamstring.
Not everybody has access to that.
Wait, is it that?
Yeah,
Yeah, that was just.
you're dropping your one side down and kind of lifted the one side up.
Okay.
You're sagging in the one side.
What is that called, or what is that?
It's not, it's just a variation.
Up
But people who have tight psoas or even a tight QL, it'll be stretchy. And you guys should get together and do that together. I think you guys have similar body size.
We have the same, you have the same issues going on.
Caroline said so.
Right, cool.
Okay.
And then strengthening, we have.
Is this one we want to strengthen?
No.
That one tends to be tight, but it also tends to be a little bit weak.
We were thinking dynamic bridge, maybe.
No, that would be dynamically stretching it.
Yeah.
That was good.
What about
Lunge,
a
with a
dynamic,
high lunge.
a dynamic leg lift?
A high lunge? No, not really.
Oh,
Because mostly what's working there is the back part of the body. The front is
boat pose,
shortening.
definitely.
It's not really working. Because they're camel stretching it. Yeah. Is that what you're saying? To stretch it? Yeah.
So we said boat pose to strengthen it.
Yeah.
What else do we have? Utkatasana?
I have heard of a dance, but I don't even remember what that was.
The reason why, let me tell y'all what, the reason why, think about Utkatasana real quick.
What did that do?
Think about Utkatasana and lunge. The front leg is bent and the glutes are working super hard to not get pulled into even longer positions, so they're working eccentrically. So the work is happening there and the front is more just sort of in a shortened position but not really working. Now, if I were to lift my leg up and someone pushed down and resist that, then I'm really working to keep that leg up. And that's when this is working. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But the glutes are working so that you don't fall into even more of a low gravity pull position. And so that's the work there. And it's not working with the front even though it's contracted. So short doesn't necessarily mean strengthening. Contracted doesn't necessarily mean strengthening. But yes, it is in a short position, and it's good to know it's in a short position because then you know you're not going to stretch it in that position. Okay. So, does it make sense that it's not working even though it's shortened? Mm-hmm. It should feel right to y'all. It should make sense.
So if you lay on your back and did those like crunches where you put your legs down and then bring them back up, or do you get
That
more
would
in
be
your abs?
abdominal.
Well, hold on. Let me see.
I was just
but-
thinking of like doing like
At the
a
same
Right, you
time.
could do it one-legged too if you can't do it.
Yeah, 2 is a lot. What is that one called?
I don't know.
Okay, so take your legs straight down. Okay, you didn't have to at one time, but it's fine.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, now lift your leg up. That's hip flexion, so you're working your hip flexors, and one of them that we're talking about right now is your psoas. There's other ones that you're working too. If you do a crunch coming up, it's saying this works a little bit with the leg down even, or with the knees bent. You're working abdominals, but a little bit of this is working because they said, even though there's origin insertion, this actually can go both ways where it's a little active. So it's working a little bit here. Another one when people tell me they feel the front of their hip is, let's see, lie all the way down and then lift this leg up. Well, do like a bicycle. Do like a bicycle with both legs, but very slow. Yeah. And if you do that enough, a lot of people say, well, I feel it in the front of my hip. And so, or like crunch up like this. And so you're doing abdominal, okay, you're doing your rectus abdominis, and transverse should be a little active. and if we're going side to side, we're getting the obliques, which we're gonna get to. But people will say they feel it in the hips. Have you ever felt that in the front of the hip? Because you're using your hip flexors also. Psoas being one of them. So trunk and hip flexion, it's working when there's some kind of effort to do trunk and hip flexion. But just because you're flexed, like I'm flexed here, but they're not working, they're contracted. The reason why they're tight on a lot of people is because of sitting a lot. So they're staying in that shortened position. So if you're sitting a lot for work and not doing a lot of yoga, they're going to be tight here.
Right, and you see older people that they don't have the ability to lift up, and sometimes it's because that psoas is so tight that they can't.
Yeah, they've just sort of, they're shrinking back into that fetal position.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Did y'all have any other ones?
That's the muscle we have.
Yeah, so we talked about Cobra, upward dog, we'll stretch that hip flexor. So that's a really good one. You're gonna get it when you do core, but it's mostly, it's nice one to focus on stretching in class.
Not as much strengthening unless you're just doing core work. It's like
Yeah, you'll get it with core work. You want to do core, if you do core work or any kind of leg lifts from, like I showed you when she was down here, whether it's straight leg or bicycling or whatever, you are going to strengthen it there. And it's good to strengthen it because just because a muscle is short and tight doesn't necessarily mean that it's strong. We don't really use it, but you're not really going to get it any other than like Navasana and a lot of core activities where you're having to really work hard to stay in flexion or to get into flexion of the hip.
so you're saying if it's short and tight does not mean it's strong.
No,
It
just
means
because
it's
something
overworked.
is,
I mean,
Just-
if it's used too much, it's like we're using it all the time from sitting.
or not, right, or not even, it's not that we're using it, it's just that we're keeping it in a shortened position.
You're not allowing it to pull out.
If we're using a lot, it may be too tight, like the piriformis is used a lot with walking, even though we're not necessarily walking a lot, but it's active when you move the leg. When you're walking, you're not using the hip flexors unless you're marching. So, because you're staying in a shortened position, it means it needs a stretch, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's strong, just because it's tight. Actually, tight usually means it's weak because you can't have full access of the muscle, but
Because people who sit down too much or
Keeping
not
it short.
moving, it's keeping it short, that makes it weaker.
well,
Or that you have problems with it.
well, you can't fully access the muscle, maybe, but it's not so much weakness there, it's more tightness, but I'm just saying just because it's tight doesn't mean it's strong.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I was reading this anatomy book, the part of the meat from the cow that people eat, like the filet mignon is the psoas of the cow.
I know it's the
because-
butt, but I didn't realize it was the
No,
psoas.
it's the psoas because when you're in the crawling position, that's a muscle that you're not using. Like they're not using that muscle like we're having to engage it all the time just to stabilize and to sit up.
Yeah.
So it would be an awful piece of meat for us to eat on our body, but
What the piriformis?
we ready to say for a
Well, no, that's not true because we're staying flexed too if we're sitting a lot. So actually, it is staying sort of.
I don't know. That's
I don't
what I'm
know.
saying. It's an interesting thought, though, but they're like this all the time. It's not
really.
but they're
Like, let's face it, okay, let's be clear, a cow is not lifting their knee past 90. I mean, a cow is not walking around the field lifting
What an awesome cow.
Maggie, what about in the lunge if you bend the back?
Imagine like someone walking
Right there, and doing colors. I know it's a quad stretch, but doesn't that get the same way?
Yeah. You want to show that real quick?
Oh my gosh.
No, because it's flexed and externally rotated in Baddha Konasana, it's a shortened position.
Even if you go forward?
It's even more flexed.
So in the high lunge, and then I have them bend the knee here and let it hover. Isn't that stretching?
It is stretching there, but it also works at knee big time. I mean, the quad big time. In
Oh yeah, I feel it more in the quad.
Yeah,
I thought
it's
it was
working
stretching here.
eccentrically. It's working eccentrically here.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, that is stretching the back leg if you do it like that.
Is Warrior One stretching it at all?
Yeah, yeah. Warrior One lunge, even more. Because Warrior One, there's a little bit of a rotation.
So monkey pose would as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Ardha Hanumanasana and Hanumanasana would stretch it, yeah. Which some people call proposal pose, but. So.
I guess the squat doesn't do much for that.
No, it shortens it.
Okay.
It's majorly shortened, just like a deep forward fold in Baddha Konasana. It's
Right.
majorly shortened.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so after that, let's do the adductors and then the awkward root muscle.
There they are.
And you guys, you see how it's also directly related to the back.
Sorry, I didn't know that was, okay, sorry.
So it's a good one to stretch for back, to relieve the back a little bit. It's pulling directly on here. So it can cause compression in the low back if it's tight.
We're doing the soleus, is that what you said?
The adductors.
Oh, okay.
Are we doing QL today or is that another day?
That's gonna be with the core muscles, and I think we're gonna have to leave that for the upper body, because I think we'll have more time with the upper body to add that, because we have a lot of insignificant yoga muscles in the upper body.
There's gonna be 3 different colors, so whichever ones you wanna pick.
I just wanted to wait and see what we get done today.
They worked a lot together, if you will, in the SOAS, right?
Well, yeah, the QL is more, it's like a side bender and an extensor of the low back, so they work close together as far as their neighbors, and they're both attaching to the back, but they're different, they're doing different things, yeah.
What's that picture? What? The one your finger's just on. Other one. Your index finger.
Oh, this?
Yeah, what is that?
I really don't know. So we're gonna start with I don't know. The abdomen magnus is the biggest muscle.
And it's on page 63 if you're in the third edition of that.
61 on
And
the new
61
one.
on the fourth edition. And so it's 3 muscles that work together, kind of like the glutes that we talked about. There'll be the adductor magnus, which is the largest. We'll have the adductor longus, which is the longest. And the adductor brevis, which is the smallest. So this is your inner thigh area. So if you have the, go ahead.
Say the origin insertion.
Okay, the origin of, they all kind of originate,
The pubic bone.
okay, you go ahead and take that part since you got it.
They all originate at the pubic bone, so she's taking it right there.
Yes, so that's so
And they go
easy.
down to the femur and the top of the knee, so you're doing the magnus, right?
Yeah.
First one.
Yeah.
So it doesn't cross over 2 joints, so it's not gonna affect the knee at all, because it's not crossing over the knee joint, so it'll have no effect on it. And it's attaching to the medial condyle of the femur.
So I'll be right, if y'all wanna feel that on yourselves, it'll be that little part right here, right above your knee on the
Okay.
inside.
Yeah, at the higher part, the higher one. Remember, it's like more, you have 2 condyles, the femur and the tibial condyle. It's the higher condyle.
If you ever do those leg machines on the latest side of the gym.
bones is the one where you
Yeah, I would measure it to the top.
there.
and then
Where you hope nobody's looking.
Right.
Here's right there. Yeah, they just kind of I got it. Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're on the longboard.
Okay.
No, you're fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So she just takes the longest here, which also originates at the pubic bone and stops at the medial femur.
They'll, all your adductors will come from the pubic bone, including the group that y'all are gonna do with the pectineus and the gracilis. All adductors are at the pubic bone.
And this is the brevis, also originating at the pubic bone, so it's the shortest one.
So they wrap into each other? Like,
They kind of overlap each other.
Well, and they're kind of layered, like
Yeah.
here, here,
no,
here,
but they
here.
have it so that it's not, they don't all insert at the medial condyle.
Yeah,
It's
they
just,
do.
Yeah.
oh, they do?
No, aren't some of them at the shaft though?
Yeah, they look like they're over here.
Yeah, it looks
They're
like
going
you
top.
talk about that.
Yeah, no, they're
No,
not.
yeah, I got it over here.
They're not all at the condyle. Look, C, B,
No, but they all
S.
start at the pubic bone.
Yeah, they all start at pubic
And then
bone.
they move up.
But then they fan out. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
start there, showing where they connect.
Yeah, on her,
the
see
bone.
that.
But
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
right, they connect all.
Over.
They connect all along the length of the shaft, but the most important part is that they're not crossing over the knee joint. None of them. They're all attaching above the knee joint, because if it crosses over the knee, it affects the knee motion, and then this doesn't.
Look, here's the.
It's a one joint muscle. Okay. Now, isn't there somewhere, correct me if I'm wrong, where it says the adductor magnus also attaches partly to the ischial rim, or somewhere by close to the sit bone?
Oh, it looks like here, because it wraps around.
It says the pubic bone in the.
Yeah, look, Maggie.
Yeah, ischium, yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, okay, so that's important, because it becomes not just an adductor, but something else if it's attaching all the way to the back.
Can you repeat that, please?
The adductor magnus attaches to the pubic bone and part of the sit bone, or the ischium. Maybe not the tuberosity, but part of the rim there. I think it attaches close to that rim.
It's right here. See how it's got right there?
Yeah. Look in your coloring book.
You can see those attachment sites.
So it does come all the way
Got it. Thank you.
back there.
From the back, you're saying it goes underneath.
Yeah. And then that's right there.
Should we change that?
Well, you just add another piece.
The back sheet of it.
Right.
Feel that
Right.
yourself as if you're doing like a sumo squat.
Yeah.
And then your hamstrings
Yeah,
would be
but
like.
what I wanted to say about that one is, remember how we talked about triangle is a really common place to injure your hamstrings? Some people, and I know from my experience and a couple other people that I know, have associated groin pain with their sit bone pain. And it could be because when they are overstretching that sit bone connection of the hamstring, they're also overstretching a little bit of the adductors, and therefore they're getting some groin pain because it connects to the pubic bone as well. And that's where triangle comes in. It's a major adductor and hamstring stretcher pose. And so sometimes if your student tells you, my sit bone hurt, you're going to come across this. And it kind of wraps around my groin. You know your adductor is also, it serves as the same action as the hamstrings, as an extensor, because it's at the sit bone. And a lot of times when you're stretching, like in triangle and wide leg forward folds, you're stretching the adductors and the hamstrings. And the adductor magnus kind of serves as the same action as the hamstrings do, because it's attaching to that sit bone. And so if you know where it's attached and how the hamstrings work. So it should say somewhere in there where it's assist in hip extension. At least the bottom part or something, the top part.
That's
The top part. Yeah.
Contracts the thigh externally, retaining them.
Okay, so the adductor magnus is definitely a major adductor, but I think the top portion assists in hip extension. Let me just.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. Okay, good. So it acts like a hamstring muscle as well, a little bit. Okay? I don't know where my muscles are. All right, good. So that's important to know. If someone has sit bone and groin, pubic bone-ish kind of pain, they may have injured their adductor magnus in addition to some of their hamstring connections at their sit bone, okay?
So sit bones and what was the second thing?
What?
You said there.
Pubic bone, they have pubic bone complaint.
Yeah, they'll
feeling
complain.
it in their groin or pubic bone.
Yeah, they may feel like they did something, their sit bone hurts when they stretch it, they kind of have some groin pain. It could be the adductor, which is easy to injure. It connects to the sit bone also. All right.
It attaches to the pubic bone.
Yeah.
So you already got our adduction, so it moves everything into the body.
Yeah, it adds, bring everything to the midline.
I'm like, doom or read them?
We might have to do some of them
If you want to read them, then
Either way.
But is it all as a group, like we're doing the stretches for the whole, we're not doing the stretches just for the magnus?
No, we're doing all three.
Absolutely
Yeah,
not.
they
All
work
three
through all
together.
three.
Okay.
Yeah, it'd be really difficult to kind of isolate.
You don't isolate them, right.
So the things that we came up with were triangle pose, happy baby.
Hold on, triangle. In the front leg. Happy baby.
You're stretching the inner thighs.
Yeah, more in the
Not
top part, yeah.
Bound angle pose.
Bound angle,
body conasana.
yeah. Because it's abducting instead of bringing the legs together. Y'all see that? This is what that muscle does.
We did, oh, that's straight. Hoop toes.
Upavista Konasana, wide forward fold.
Yeah.
And then we've got, do you want to demonstrate the squat Malasana? So Malasana or garland pose to stretch it.
Yeah.
And then if you wanna.
That'll open it more.
And then Supta Padangusthasana, reclining hand to big toe pose.
Y'all know
Or you
that?
take a belt if you want, if you're on your back.
Y'all know what that one is on the back?
Supta Padangusthasana,
So,
hand to big toe pose.
And to the side. There you go. See that? How it's moving away from the body?
That's for strength.
And what is that pose called?
You were still stretching, right?
Yeah, Supta Padangusthasana. No, Padangusthasana. Supta Padangusthasana.
Okay.
And then you can do that in standing.
you did that last night.
In standing last night.
We'll see.
Which is Uttita Asta Padangusthasana.
Yeah, you add a Uttita Hasta if it's standing.
And that would still be stretch, not strengthen?
Stretch if you go out to the side, not strengthening. and nothing if you're just in the middle.
Okay.
It's going out to the side, which is what's getting it stretched. Okay.
How about gate pose?
Yeah, I have gate pose and also have Ardha Hamanasana,
Mm-hmm.
half splits.
No.
It's not stretching out.
Well, look, if you go into it like you can, you can go into it like this and then drop the knee. Have y'all ever had someone teach you how to drop the knee?
Yeah.
And you can get a little bit there.
Oh, I was thinking of the other version, Maggie, where you got the front leg straight.
Oh,
This
that
version
Ardha
would have-
Hamanasana.
Yeah, this version.
No, that's more hamstring and a little bit of the adductor magnus where it attaches to the sip bone.
Okay.
Because it's a extension.
But if you externally rotate the foot on that front foot,
You know, it's not the same as adducting. It's externally rotating, internally it's still staying neutral. It's not the same as moving it out to the side, so I would say no.
And what about frog?
Which one's from?
Yeah, show me frog.
are you talking about this
I'm
one?
not open enough to there.
This one?
Oh, yes.
So you're like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I haven't done on top of that in a while. Yeah.
That would stretch though.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
a real crowd pleaser.
Yeah.
Love it.
What about,
They'll definitely come back to
They
your
will
lap.
come back.
would Gomukhasana do it?
Go Mukhasana? No, because
No.
you're coming together.
But that was using
Okay.
it too.
Yeah.
So that would be the same, yeah. Right.
No.
No, it is in a shortened position maybe, but it's not working. Okay, where would it be working?
What, going across there?
Where?
Flexors.
How would we work the adductors?
If you squeeze the legs in.
Okay, when do we need to squeeze the legs in?
Inversion.
Hello. Right.
For real?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bridge pose. You can tell someone's not activating their adductors if their knees are splaying in bridge pose. Or wheel, full wheel, yeah.
Yeah.
Camel. I know camel squats, it's the same thing.
Camel.
Well, people splay in camel too, you gotta keep your knees together there too.
But
I
they're
know
already,
it's more quads, but.
they're already together. They're grounded though. It's not something where they're loose and they can move in and out. You know.
What about Warrior 3? Because you have to kind of, to keep yourself from rotating.
Sure, I would say that they are more active there than in some other places. So yeah, there is a little bit of Parshvottanasana is one where if you tell people to engage their inner thighs, revolved Parshvottanasana and revolved triangle is what it is. Revolved triangle, you have to
Squeeze
squeeze in for that. Do y'all know what that feels like? To have to, yeah.
What is it where, I guess it's like you're in second, but your toes are kind of pointed in? Would that be squeezing in? Is my toes are?
She's talking about Prasarita
Yeah, but
Padangusthasana, wide leg forward fold.
Yeah.
The toes pointing in and out, because Caroline mentioned something about that's more internal external rotation versus adduction and abduction. So I would say not really.
Okay.
But I mean, you can go into Prasarita Padangusthasana and think of engaging, even though your feet are pushing down, to activate those muscles a little bit. But I don't think that that's necessarily a great thing or cue to do in a wide leg forward fold. You want to activate your thighs and get a good hamstring stretch. I will tell y'all this.
Okay.
If you have a student that feels that sit bone pain in a forward fold, just Uttanasana, but not in Prasarita Padangusthasana, it's probably not the adductor where it connects to the sit bone. It's probably just the hamstring. Does that make sense? And if someone feels it in wide leg forward fold, that sit bone icky feeling, but not in a forward fold, it's probably not the hamstring. It could be that adductor magnus that connects to the hamstring. And if someone feels it in both, it could be of both of those. Well, in both of them, it would be both of them.
What about strength? I guess a strength exercise or pose, like in any kind of like handstand or headstand type thing, like holding all that together.
Yeah, they do.
That's the main.
It's not, but they are very active there. They're very much active there to keep those legs together, and your core, your back and front muscle are very active to stabilize. So they're not really going into contraction or complete extension, but there's a lot of stabilizing that happens there with the adductors and the tailbone tucking and the pelvic floor muscles and the abdominals. Yeah.
What pose are you talking about?
Inversions, headstand.
That's what Kevin and I were talking about. We were talking about headstand when we were working on this. Yeah. Pulling those legs together.
What about to stretch a child's pose? To stretch the adductors.
Well, she
A
was
wide
saying.
knee child's pose.
Yeah, but more so would be that frog pose, the people pleaser pose, the crowd pleaser pose. Frog pose would be really more effective for that. So wide leg is opening them a little bit, yeah, but I would say mild.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know how many people go into that and go, oh, I feel such a good stretch in my inner thigh. You know what I mean? It's not as effective as it is abduction of the hip, but I don't necessarily think it's like getting a good stretch. It is moving more towards lengthening them.
So that's cool, right?
Do you want the strengthening stuff?
Yeah. We did the.
What is stretching?
Yeah, well, we were talking about the strengthening, and I don't know if you have any more, because we were saying, tell us what you have.
In addition to what we already discussed with the
Okay.
goddess pose, so while you're holding yourself, really strong. And then side plank.
Okay, so you're saying that strengthens it? How is that strengthening it?
Side plank.
No, the goddess pose.
It's eccentric.
Oh, good, yeah. Because it's hard to, if you're real tight, it's not hard to fall down, okay? For most people, they're not going to go that way, but they are working. Gravity is pulling you more that way, and so they're kind of resisting that a little bit.
What is that pose? What does it look like? Goddess pose.
I can do that one. Do you do? Yeah. So it's a wide leg, like a sumo squat, and then your arms up.
And then to hold yourself there is hard because it's on stretch, and the tendency is for the weight to go down towards gravity this way, and she's holding herself up in there.
And with your arms on it.
And so you have to keep your hips level with your knees.
I have to really play around with
that's
that.
the goal.
Yeah.
Most people can't, but yeah.
Either way, your arms are, above the hips for the most part. So I think if they're here or here, it may be different. It's not the same thing. It's a lever arm that's going down this way towards gravity. It's not going against. It's not like in a vertical. So I think the lever arm is not the same in a vertical position. I think it's more parallel, opposite the force of gravity, where the lever arm is more effective.
Okay.
Or to think about the lever arm more. Okay, good. Goddess pose is working eccentrically, but it is on stretch, and some guys are going to feel a stretch, and it's going to work. That's why I remember when I first started doing yoga and we did lots of forward foldings in class, my hamstrings would be sore after. I'm like, how are they sore when I'm stretching them? It's because they were working partially eccentrically, going into it and coming out of it. And so goddess pose is one that may lengthen those muscles, especially guys who have really tight groin muscles, and part of your groin muscles are some of your short adductors. But it is giving them a little stretch if you're super tight, but it's really working them, especially for more flexible people. Okay.
We talked about side plank, how you'd have to keep those together to get yourself up.
Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm.
And then extended side angle, I'm terrible at the Sanskrit, Parsvakonasana,
Mm-hmm.
and revolve triangle, which we
Wait, Parsvakonasana, how is that working there?
So this one?
Side angle stretch.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe you meant Pavrita, the revolved one.
Oh, we did mention that later, yeah.
Right, any
It's
revolved,
same
yeah.
revolved half moon,
Revolved half moon, revolved triangle, revolved anything like that where the legs are in sort of like a...
Ashtavakrasana, revolved crow.
Ashtavakrasana, baby. Let's do it,
doing
Maggie.
that.
Come on, let's do it. You guys know it?
Wait,
You guys know it?
That was.
Okay.
I haven't done that long time.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That one. And I'm like, who's doing that?
Oh my God, remember she was pregnant? She was like, Ashtavakrasana. And she was like 9 months pregnant. Remember you were doing that? Oh my God, I was like, stop doing that.
That's it. But the legs, yeah, they could be more.
Squeeze the end of that again.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you gotta get out.
Arlene had us trying to have.
Arlene, that's okay.
just kinda
Today is going to be an easy class. We're going to walk off
We're gonna do
with
restorative.
Ashtabakravana.
A restorative class.
You got to go to a warm-up class before you go to her warm-up. Okay.
And we said, Utkatasana, the chair pose.
Yeah.
And as well as, eagle legs.
Now, I don't think they're really working there.
Even though you're squeezing the legs together.
Yeah, maybe. If you're,
I feel like you were trying to stand in that, and if you bounce up and down, not bounce, but if you try to rise
no,
up and then go
it is. But listen, think about it too. It is very much, especially if you can't wrap this around here. For me, once I wrap this around here,
You're just
I'm sort of
binding.
hanging out.
You're binding,
So,
yeah.
but yes, it is working there.
But most
It is.
people can't tuck the toe.
Right,
back.
and even if they do, it is working there. But if you block it, it's good. But I would say, okay, it's working a lot more maybe Ashtabakravana or something else. But yes, I think that's good. Okay.
They might not catch anything.
Would Navasana be one as well, just because, or I mean, I think of, or also when you're in Shalavasana or whatever, and it's so important for you to sort of hold your, I mean, the
Did you say
prompt-
Navasana?
Well, I said Navasana and then I said Shalavasana.
Okay, because I was like, okay.
Yeah, I did say Navasana.
Okay, and then Salabhasana?
Yeah, because I think of prompts sometimes that I get at math class, and they say,
Squeeze the legs.
squeeze
Yeah.
your legs together.
Okay, let's do an activity. Get the blankets under your hip bones and come up to your tummy and share space with your neighbor. Yeah, like, some people are like, you're in my space, and it's like, no, that's what I mean by share space. Be friendly. Be friendly.
Tummy issue.
Be
Do you have
nice.
more than one blanket?
Yeah, I do. You have one?
Okay, all right. Take your feet. I'm waiting for y'all. I'm waiting for those of you who aren't there. Take your feet wider apart. So like hip width or wider.
I don't know what to do with that.
No, if your hip bone, you might not need it.
Let's go in the hole.
Here, it's like a
No, you don't.
She's already in my arm.
You want me to do that? It's overwhelming everyone else.
All right. Put your palms down. Okay. All right, everyone has your straight space. All right. Okay, come into all fours now. I just want to make sure you have space. Sorry. All right, now from all fours, move into your child's pose and stretch your arms out in front of you, and have your knees hip width or a little wider. Okay, now come forward and lower down into a cobra. Okay, lower down. Don't think about anything right now, and then go back.
Back to the child's pose.
Yeah, child's pose, and inhale forward, exhale cobra. Inhale push up, exhale back. Okay. Now, bring your knees a little closer together. Like halfway to almost being all the way together. Inhale forward, exhale lower. Okay, and then inhale up and exhale back. You should feel like it's more extension on your back. We're not necessarily talking about the back now. We'll bring this up again. One more time, forward and lower. Now when you're here, press into the tops of the feet, focusing on your big toes. Okay, some of you are lowering into baby cobra. Can you lower with the arms straight? And then back. Yeah, like Caroline's doing, yeah. And then back. Grounding into the big toes. You should feel your adductors activating a little more. So do that a couple more times, and then we're going to bring the legs even closer. It is a lot on the back, so if you feel like it's too much for your back here, you can stop here. When you come forward, ground into the big toes. That'll make you activate those adductors a little more. Straight arms if you can. Do y'all feel that? Okay, now bring your knees almost all the way together if you can, together. Now focus on grounding into the big toes when you come into cobra. It's okay if the arms need to bend a little bit, but try to get them straight. Do y'all feel those inner thighs working?
Yeah.
Okay, so So the closer they are, the easier it is to engage them, but it's focusing on grounding into the big toes will help you activate your adductors. So it's not that your adductors are active in Cobra or Up Dog, it's that you should try to encourage your students to activate them there so that you're using those muscles. You're getting a muscle that's hard to get in a lot of poses, and you're getting the more bang for your buck. You're getting more out of the pose than you can. So grounding in the tops of the feet helps activate those inner thighs and pull them together. Okay? So and so also just going straight into upward dog. A cue to give your students an upward dog is ground into your big toes, and that's going to make them work their inner thighs a lot more. Okay? Or cobra. All right. All right. Where are we now? We did all the adductors. Okay. So Bracken, do you want to do your muscles because you have some adductors as well, or some yeah, hip adductors. Yeah.
So we'll do pectineus first, is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So do you want to talk about? Yeah. I'll do some putting some color up here.
Okay, pectineus is an adductor. It brings the leg toward the midline of the body, medially. The actions of the pectineus is that it flexes the hip and it adducts the hip. The origin is the pubis and the insertion is the femur.
Does that look right, Mike?
I think it's a little more medial.
Did you say that again? Where did you say it originated?
The origin
Yeah, I
is
think it's more
the
like
pubis and the insertion is the femur.
Yeah, the inside. The femur is a yeah. On the inside, under the left trochanterus. So it's an adductor, but it attaches to the front of the body, the pubic bone, so it will assist in a little bit of flexion.
So is this really a muscle that's under those? Would it be a deeper muscle than that we're seeing?
It's a deep muscle, and it's under, I believe, the psoas, or sort of in the same level as the psoas, but the adductors are more stacked up and down than on top.
But I guess my question is, here's this, is that the brevis right there,
Well,
the top one?
I don't remember exactly how it was in the cadaver, but if you look at it here, they're all sort of attaching to the same area, and they're all pretty much together with maybe a little overlap of the insertion. But they're all attaching to about this area.
And then
It's
look
just
at
the way we taped it.
Look at the attachment. You see the little attachment sites right
But
there.
she's done up here. See, so they're all about together, and there may be a little overlap here, but they're all about the same level in the body, and it's pretty deep and medial.
It looks like pectineus is coming up on the top of them though.
Yeah, so right here is the pectineus insertion.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah. And then the other ones, the ones here. This one, hold on. Oh, that's a sit bone. Yeah, that's in the back. And then you have some right here. C is right there. So one of the adductors right here. So look, it's here and some here, and some here, and some back here. So some of them are together. Because look, right there. C and B.
Oh, there it is. A looks like it's the most
It's on the
superior of all of them at the top.
It's more lateral.
Yeah, but also at the very top. But okay. Yeah, anyway, it's up here on the pubic.
Yeah, you're looking at this area.
That's hilarious.
So it is superior and it's more lateral. They're all about here around the pubic bone. They're not all right here on the actual like protrusion.
And do we want to talk about that one some more?
No, I didn't. Huh?
Do we want to do poses for this one? Or
No, the pectineus is there. I want y'all to know it's there. I don't want you to be like, we didn't talk about that. It's an adductor. You're gonna get the adductors when you get the adductor ones that we talked about. Okay. So you can lump the pectineus.
That might be the smell.
And the gracilis. Are y'all gonna do the gracilis now? You can.
So the gracilis. Does anybody else want to take or? The gracilis is a very long little muscle that goes from right here, right close to the pubic symphysis, to down all the way to the medial condyle of the tibia. Is that correct?
Yeah, it crosses over the knee.
So it crosses over the knee, meaning it's crossing two different joints.
Mm-hmm.
And he's little. He's like this little guy right here. And what else do we need to? It assists in flexion
Of
the hip, is what I would, or is it at the knee?
yeah.
It's the knee.
It's the knee.
No, I have it at the hip.
It's the hip here. Yeah, you can see that.
It's an
And then-
adductor that
And then
assists
it's
in
also an
flexion.
abductor.
Yeah.
So it's at AB, like
No, it adds. It's an
an
adductor.
it's
yeah.
it's adding to the body.
Yeah,
AD.
the gracilis and the pectineus can be lumped with the adductors.
That's right. So it's the
And
most medial one of them.
Yeah, and it assists in hip flexion, just like the lower part of the adductor magnus, and just like the pectineus, it assists in hip flexion because it's attached. Its attachment is in the front.
That's right. And it's the longest one of the adductors and the most medial one. And so we'll just do the same exercises for that as the adductor.
I would lump that with the pectineus with the adductors. There's no reason to separate that. You can't really. And I think it helps medially rotate at the knee a little bit.
Yeah, I did read that.
Yeah.
And what would that look like, medial at the knee just coming in?
Yeah, I would say turning in like this. This is external and this is medial.
Okay.
Oh, they didn't feel it.
So then, is this the
Symphysis, these are symphysis too, the cartilage sort of between the spine, and you have like all these, this are the same family of joints.
Okay.
Yeah, they're like.
So what Maggie's saying is this point right here in the middle, it's the one closest to the midline. Closest to the midline of the body. So then we have the tensor fascia latae. You even know that?
We have it, yep, the tensor fascia latae, I had the, you wrote that it was an abductor, it's an abductor?
It does three things. Remember that was the
Right.
one that you had to get in some really awkward position that I had to try to figure out to stretch it? Oh no, it was the sartorius.
But both of them are.
Yeah, but both of them.
Right, the sartorius is the one that does all the different.
Well, it does, but the tensor fascia latae is a medial rotator, a flexor, and an abductor.
Okay, so we're gonna start here on it. So the origin is here at the, so let me look.
The lateral hip anterior connection of the pubis.
The anterior superior iliac spine.
Yeah, but wait, why are you saying pubis?
Oh, that's what I wrote down.
No, it's the anterior superior iliac spine. ASIS.
And that's the one you can touch right here at the top.
Where is it in our coloring book if you have edition 4?
Page 59.
Thank you.
So the hip bone that y'all feel right here is your ASIS.
Anterior, superior,
Iliac. Correct.
iliac.
Superior. Because I want y'all to see this when she's done. I'll show you the inferior. Okay.
So I'm taping here, and this is what I talked to Maggie a little bit about. We'll explain this, is that this goes, the tensor fascia latae, a lot of people confuse it to be this muscle that goes all down the side, but actually the side of the body is the IT band, which is a fascial band, and it connects right into it. So I'm going to do a different color for that, but it's going to go all the way down. I'm sorry if I'm blocking people. But it can go all the way down to, where does it?
It crosses over the knee.
It's going to cross the knee, and then it's going to attach onto the tibia or the fibula. I think it's the tibia, right?
It's the tibia.
Yeah, it doesn't have two attachments on that bone.
The lateral condyle of the tibia.
Okay.
Yeah, so the lateral side of the tibia right here. So it's going to be a different color, but know that it's all one kind of one action that's happening with it. And then,
So the tensor fasciae lata is a very superficial muscle. We'll palpate it, and so she's taping it to the femur. But really, it's not even touching the bone, right? Because it's attaching.
okay, you're right.
Yeah.
It's on that.
Yeah, because it's attaching to the IT band, which is very lateral, most lateral, and is a very lateral muscle. So if you find it's not the top, but it's kind of like in the front. There's a sort of like a little hook. So it's like not the top, but the front. There's like a little hook. You may not feel it, but just as long as you're sort of in the front of your hip bones, that's your ASIS, anterior, superior AS, iliac crest. Okay. Your anterior, inferior iliac crest is down here. We can't touch it. It's pretty deep.
Or spine, right? You can say ASIS.
Yeah, fine. Yes. Okay. Okay. So the tensor fasciae lata. Did y'all say what it does?
Not yet. So it's action.
Well, we said it was an abductor.
Yeah.
But, right, and it was the one where,
It's an abductor, abductor.
Yeah.
right, that's what I said,
Mhm.
abductor.
And
Well, I just wrote down, I wrote all the other actions that we said there was a lot of them for the sartorius, I didn't realize it
It's
was
in
the
The
same thing
medial
as-
rotator, and
Yes.
it also helps in flexion
yes,
too.
of the hip. Okay. So if you palpate it on your neighbor or on yourself, what they would have to do is you would want to find that anterior, superior iliac crest, and go a little bit kind of down and lateral, just because you want to get off of the insertion point to the muscle, and then you would flex. You can feel it a little bit there. Abduct, it'll stay contracted, and medially rotate. See? So kind of do like this, and you'll feel that little tensor fasciae lata. Okay?
It's a cute one. It is. It's so little. And it has so many things. And then, so for stretches, it's kind of a.
We said ecopod and burning logs, those,
Just for tensor fasciae lata.
that's what we have written, yeah.
I
I
have,
have written.
I have gait.
I have that too, yeah. Gait for
Okay.
stretch and straight.
Let me say something about this. We're not going to talk about muscles for that, and let me tell you why. We have other flexors of the hip that we really address, like the psoas, and we're going to get to the quads. We have other hip abductors that we address how to stretch, and we have other medial and lateral rotators. So it's going to get its stretch, but it's not like a muscle of focus necessarily in the class, unless you want to do this sort of ballet movement with your leg and, teach that muscle to your class and really strengthen it. It's going to get its stretch in a class with all the other major ones. It's just sort of there and assists with all the other movements that the other major muscles do. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So just know the tensor fasciae lata is there, know where it inserts, know how to find it, and just know it's there. That's just one that I have to tell y'all is there, but it's not really something that you want to tell your class, and we're stretching our tensor fasciae lata right now. I mean, I don't know. It's just like it's going to get stretched when you do hip extension. It's going to get stretched when you do some adduction. It may get stretched with some other things. Okay, but it's just little. It's just there, and it's a lot bigger in the picture than it is on the actual body, as you can feel.
Is it the only abductor that we have? What is another abductor?
The knee, glute median.
Okay, so there's other ones on this right here.
Yeah.
They're doing that same kind of action. So
Yeah.
if we're doing stuff for it, we're doing stuff for the tensor
If you're
fasciae.
abducting, that's a little bit active. It's maybe more active if you abduct and flex at the same time. If you do more than one of its motions at the same time, but I just don't focus on that muscle or when I think about that I'm teaching. The IT band is a big muscle that gets a lot of attention, just like the piriformis does. I just have to tell y'all it's there because it is. I don't put any thought into it. If y'all come up with something really profound that's really important for a class or a pose, let me know. But I just don't think that one can be clumped. I think it can be clumped with the other major ones. Okay?
Well, because of the IT band that goes with it, so many people complain about that.
Yeah,
So many people. So if that's something like runners and other people, they're always like, oh, I need to stretch that out. Would it be stuff that's just crossing the body?
Yeah, you would focus more on the IT band because the IT band's more lateral and that's a little more anterior. Okay, so you would focus on IT band stuff. So we can talk about IT band stuff. How would we stretch that?
On your back.
It's just a band of fascia that crosses over the knee, and it's a knee stabilizer, and it's just there, and we need it to be there. But a lot of people complain about it being tight. I don't know if it really, what's really going on there. A lot of physical therapists and manual therapists like to stretch and massage it out. It doesn't have a lot of blood flow because it's fascial. A lot of myofascial release workers address that, but lots of other, parts of the fascia in the body. But basically, if you do Supta Padangusthasana going this way, you're getting that IT band, which is where it connects, so you are really getting that. And what's the one on the, I don't know if there's a name for it, the one where it goes out to the side like that?
Oh, well, the layman is just L-asana. L-asana.
But Supta Padangusthasana to the side is a really nice one to get that. You have to make sure when you do that you're externally rotating the thigh.
Yeah.
Okay, it's the same thing with all your standing poses. When you do revolved triangle and that one in the front leg, if you don't externally rotate that thigh, it's not lengthening that side body when you rotate, you're sort of collapsing. So that'll get the outside. You all feel that in revolved triangle, that side of the body?
Yeah.
Do you remember when we talked about doing that? How you have to really rotate that hip in with that arch? That'll help lengthen that side leg and stretch the IT band a little bit.
We did. I showed you gait, and you said that might be getting in there to some degree, right?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, because you are stretching that whole side body. You're getting a lot of the side waist. But yeah.
I teach those lunges sometimes with a externally rotated, sort of a crooked way. With the front foot externally rotated, and then more of a diagonal thing, so you're getting that whole outer edge.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. And that's good if you're in a pose and you're sort of moving a little bit and pulsing and finding stretches. It's a good way to help your students find a deeper one. Although I feel like when they're in a like a forward sort of upside down position and you start to tell them to move their feet, it gets really.
Oh, anytime you talk about a diagonal.
Yeah, anytime you want to add something that's not.
Yeah.
It's like, well, But yeah, there are ways to sort of, and that's good. See, people who've been doing yoga for a long time or body workers or whatever, they know how to wriggle around in their pose and find the stretch. There's some people, you put them in a deep stretch and they can't find it because they're just sort of, they don't know how to get into it. So little things like leaning to the side can help lengthen that more. But yeah, so those are two really good IT bands. Any revolved where you're rotating that hip way in. Supta Padangusthasana to the other side, opposite of the adductors. All right.
And then for strengthening it, would we fire hydrant? Is that what that's the only one that I could think of that just doing the leg up and that bringing that together?
Yeah, I would just think something more where it's flexing with the front, or it's more of a forward thing. I think that's a little more of a side, glute, knee kind of exercise. Yeah. But it is a little bit abduction. I mean, it's a little bit of an abductor. So I guess if you're abducting the leg, it'll get it there.
But you don't think we don't need to know individual stretches or strengtheners for it?
No, that's going to be clumped with your major hip flexors, major hip abductors. The IT band, though, those two things that we showed y'all how to get deep side stretching, that might be good. Okay.
And then the sartorius is the last one. Do you want to take anything, or you?
Trivia.
I'm right here.
You want me to, I can read if you want.
Okay.
Sartorius, I think, is the longest muscle in the body.
That was on page 62.
Page 62 in the 4th edition.
Fourth edition, sorry.
I'm gonna go from this angle.
The sartorius, the main action is flexion for the knee and hip. It also does adduction, and it medially rotates the knee and laterally rotates the hip.
It's responsible for the cross-legged position.
Well, the hacky sack movement is
The
what you're
hacky
saying,
sack,
because
yeah.
that's kind of opposite. That was a little bit confusing. It needs to be longer.
Manually rotates the knee. Let me check that.
Okay, the main action is flexion, but it also adducts. It medially rotates the knee and laterally rotates the hip.
It does not. It does not medially rotate the knee.
Okay.
It flexes and laterally rotates the knee.
Rotates hip laterally, externally rotates. Flexes knee and hip is the main action.
Okay.
And then externally rotates.
It's a lateral.
The knee. Yeah, it's just an external rotation of the knee.
Oh, to rotate.
Yes.
Okay, it's
Yes.
external rotating the knee.
Yeah, externally rotates the knee and helps flex the knee a little bit.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Alright, so it's basically that same that hack stack motion. Do y'all want to show that? We're going into tree pose. It's fully active there. Or going into tree. And I think something, did y'all read in the anatomy book, I think it's something about a horseback riding muscle. Did it say for the sartorius? Was it for the sartorius that does that? I'm not
No,
sure.
that's the ab.
On this
Oh, the abduction,
Medials.
okay, never mind. Okay, so, yeah. So it's the longest muscle in the body. It does a few things. It's a 2-joint muscle. It crosses over the hip and the knee, so it affects both. That's really like a higher level, talking in detail about its function. But for yoga reasons, just know it's there. Know it goes over around to the front. To the medial part of the knee. It could be a source of pain there.
And what's another thing that's interesting about it is that it starts up here at the ASIS, the anterior superior iliac spine, and then it comes down here and it attaches. This would be a much smaller kind of insertion, more like a tendon looking thing, but it is a tendon. And you were telling me this just for like general information is pes anserinus, and that tendon is shared with the ones on the back here, which is pretty cool. It's shared with the gracilis on the front and also the one of the hamstrings. So it all kind of 3 muscles come together into this on the back.
And they call it pes anserinus because I think that's Latin for like a
3-joint
or like a 3-finger, like a some kind of foot, chicken foot or something like that. I don't know. And so they come together in here, and so that could be a source of pain with overstretching adductors or hamstrings or triangle pose. Sometimes people feel really tight there. So just know that like in this area here, it could be that pes anserinus, which is an insertion of all 3 of those muscles.
And it attaches on the anterior.
No, it's kind of more medial.
It's medial. Of the tibia.
No, medial of the condyle, tibial condyle. Yeah.
So it's back here, but it's on the tibia.
It's more medial though. Pes anserinus.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to see because these are on the back right now, but
Yeah.
it's all kind of together there.
Okay, so those are just sort of like accessory muscles that you don't have to focus on. You just want to know that they're there. Okay? Did y'all have another one?
No, those are the 4.
Okay. So they're not a whole lot of fun. Sorry, but
We didn't even get to do any yoga poses.
well, you can.
No, I really
Do the frog.
Do some more frog.
Okay.
Is the sartor still adductor stretches?
No, the sartorius is a
Is
more
the hip
flexor, abductor, external rotator, a little bit of a knee flexor.
It does like 4 actions.
Yeah, because at first it crosses over 2 joints.
And it crosses across the body too.
Yeah, so it crosses over the hip. It does flexion and external rotation of the hip, and a little flexion and external rotation of the knee.
Right, so like that half Hanumanasana in the back leg. If you have the toes tucked underneath.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you're stretching hip flexors, it's gonna get a little bit of that. Or anytime you're stretching in internal rotation. Like some people have pain in their knee when they do this one. Okay, that could be overstretching that pes anserinus area. because it's an external rotator and this is major internal rotation. Who was doing that earlier?
Kevin was.
Yeah, for the mead.
Yeah.
Okay, so sometimes there's too much pressure on the inner knee here, and that could be that insertion site. Those muscles, those adductors can be tight, some of those hamstrings can be tight here, and then the sartorius crosses over and goes over there. So that pes instantarius area is a big, thick tendinous junction at that lower part, but crossing over the knee, so down towards the floor. That can cause a source of pain anytime you're doing adduction or any kind of stretch in that area in the knee, like in triangle.
When you do that, like when you do that kind of stretch, when you know, feel that kind of tightness right there. I mean, is that like really bad? Like,
I don't think it's really,
not,
really
like,
bad.
Super painful.
No,
but I mean, I feel it.
I know it's not a good feeling.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily
right, so.
icky. I would prop up and give your body a chance to warm up, because especially non-muscular tissues,
Yeah.
they need. Okay, you guys. Tendons. You don't really want to stretch tendons and ligaments. You don't really want to stretch those. Now, tendons attach muscle to bone. Okay, so really those are a little bit better than ligaments. Ligaments you definitely don't want to stretch, and they're avascular. So once they stretch, it's like it's gone. It's not coming back. So whenever you're stretching a tendinous junction where the muscle is attaching to the joint, you want to feel the belly of the muscle. Mm-hmm. And so if you feel that, I think you should lighten up on the stretch. So ligaments need lighter stretches and longer holds. So if you feel that, you need to back up a little bit. Use a prop or something. Okay? So if you're not feeling it in the belly of the muscle and you're feeling it at an inside of origin or insertion, then you want to back up a little bit, lighten up on your stretch. Okay? You don't want to stretch it too fast and too hard. And if you know the muscle and you know where it attaches and you know where the belly is, you know if you're feeling it in the right place or not, or if your student is feeling it in the right place or not. I think anytime you feel inner knee, it's not good because there's no muscle there, but if you feel intense stretch in the back of the knee, when we're doing forward folding and I asked y'all to straighten, that's the hamstring. The hamstring, the belly can be very long. It's not just one little middle point. It can be a length. Okay? And you know, this feeling back here in the knee, if you felt it in Uttanasana, if you had a chance to try it, it should feel different than what you're talking about here. Right. Okay. This is good, this is not. Yes. Okay. All right. Okay, so we did quads. Let's do quads. That's superficial over everything else that we just did. Is that okay? After quads, we have very quick muscles and we're done. The front and the back. What time is it? 2:30. Okay. How the heck did we do both upper and lower? I don't know. Maybe it's just because I can't do it now like I used to because I'm just more tired now. I'm just like, okay, is it 5 yet? And I know y'all are. I see it. Y'all are. I know. I feel y'all. We're gonna leave early if we can. We'll get everything else in definitely with the next one because the upper body doesn't take as long. I mean, it's like rotator cuff and a few little neck muscles and some quick back muscles.
Nobody cares about those anymore.
Right. Actually, it's right. But we will get the core. The core will be perfect for that time. We'll do the core, then the spine muscles and the abdomen and maybe some of the systems of the body. Okay. So we're doing the quads. What are you doing?
Quads means 4 heads, 4 origin points, in other words.
Quad is 4, yeah.
They all come together to form the patellar ligament. So these actually run behind the patella pes, but I can't. The patella's not with me.
They kind of go over it. It kind of does like this. Look, it kind of goes into this and sort of around it. It's not,
okay.
It's not behind it.
Okay, around it.
It's a little over it though, too.
Okay.
Yeah. And it attaches to the
tibialar. You're talking about the actual
Patellar
insertion.
ligament.
The patellar, they form the patellar ligament and they insert in the
The
tibial.
patellar ligament inserts in the tibial tuberosity.
Oh, that's it.
Y'all can feel that tibial tuberosity if you bend your knee?
Are you doing all of it?
Yeah, he's saying the quads, quad means four, they all come together and form the patellar ligament, which is really a tendon, but it's called a ligament. So it's a ligament and a tendon, and so it doesn't matter. So don't get into an argument with someone over it. It crosses over the knee and attaches to the tibial tuberosity. That's what he's saying. We're going to talk about origin in a minute because he kind of skipped over that. But they're all coming and inserting right here. Tibial tuberosity. Okay.
Okay. The origin points for the vastus medius, vastus medialis, vastus lateralis, medius, and lateral intramedius. All origin on the femur, basically around greater trochanter, front, middle, and back, or behind, posterior. The rectus foramus is the only one that crosses the hip joint and actually origins at the iliac crest, or the spine of the iliac. Let's see. Their function is to straighten, all four straighten the knee. Only the rectus foramus crosses the joint and helps flex the torso towards the leg. Let's see what else.
Okay, let me stop real quick. Oh, go ahead.
It also helps stabilize this area.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Any muscle really that crosses over a joint is stabilizing that joint. So muscles are all stabilizers to a point, and the deeper they are, the more of a stabilizer they are, but they're all, especially at the joint area, stabilizing it. And in this area, especially when you talk about stability, because it's holding the whole body up. The quadratus, the rectus femoris is the one that crosses over two joints. And that one does not help with trunk flexion. Did you see that?
It specifically said that somewhere.
Okay, I need to see that because there's stuff written that's not correct. It's crossing right here over the hip joint. It's not touching any part of the trunk at all.
Also the torso, not the trunk.
The torso. It's not a torso.
Yeah, if I find it, I'll print it
Yeah,
and give it in.
let me look at it because that's what I'm saying, you guys. Sometimes I read stuff, and especially I've read quite a few anatomy articles, and I'm reading in there, and it's not right at all. And I checked my resources. I'm not like, that's not what I remember. Like, I double check it. There's some things that are not correct. Now, I don't know where you read that, but look at where it is. It's touching this part right here and crossing over the knee. So it's only affecting the hip joint. It's not touching any part of the spine, which is your trunk or torso, or whatever you want to call it. So it's not really doing anything there.
Doesn't affect the knee?
Straight.
Well, and also listen to this. This is part of your sacrum, which holds your spine. But if you look at origin and insertion, this is one where if it inserts here, that's moving up this way. So it may be short in a forward fold at this top portion, and this is coming forward, but it's not really doing anything with the trunk. It's more your abdominals and your psoas. Yeah, and your psoas is closer to that. So that's okay. And somewhere it may say that, you guys, some of these anatomy books with these really pretty pictures, some of those muscles are showing that are working or not. So there are some things that are, just like you want to be careful what you read on the internet, I'm learning a lot more. There's also books that you got to be careful about what's in there, too. Okay, all right, so go ahead.
It also helps with knee extension, does it?
Hold on. The quadratus femoris.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Definitely, it's definitely a knee extensor, but only that one that crosses it. All four of them actually are. The quadratus femoris is the only one that's a hip flexor. So yeah, they're knee extensors. All four of them are knee extensors, but only that one is a hip flexor, right? Because it's crossing. The other ones don't cross over the hip, so they can't affect that joint. Okay?
They're all knee extensors though?
Yeah, because they all cross over the knee.
Okay.
They all meet at that tendon that crosses over the,
All going this way.
the patella, yeah. patella tendon. Okay.
So for stretches, are we?
Yes, stretches we had. Let me look. Anyway, I have hero pose, Virasana.
So it's but again, we're doing all of them together for the stretch.
We need a well, we're gonna talk about that. They're gonna be separated a little bit, okay? We're gonna talk about it. I'm gonna let them present those, and then I'll tell y'all, those two joint muscles are different than one joint muscles, because there's ways of getting them more stretched than others. And we do have to separate the quads, because one of them crosses over two joints and the other three
the
don't.
vastus would sort of all be together, and
The medialis, intermedius, and the lateralis are all together.
yeah, all the vastus ones, and then the thing. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. For stretches we had the camel pose.
Okay, which one is that stretching?
Well, now. B. I don't think that.
Yeah, and it's stretching it, why? Like at what part? And where and why? Where are you stretching it in that position?
Somebody demo it.
Yeah, I think we should demo.
Where's the demo at?
Wait, are you gonna do the Ustrasana? You think you're okay with your back? Okay. Okay, so I'm doing it. Okay, so.
The hip flex, is it not? Well, no, because it's not.
You're extending. I
Yeah,
mean, you're going opposite from the flexion. You're
Yeah,
extending.
so it's stretching,
It's stretching.
it's stretching at the hip, so it's stretching the rectus femoris. And the knee is a little bent. Yeah, so it is a little stretch here. It's not your biggest stretch there because it's still very open back here, okay? What would give you more of a stretch for the ones that just cross over the knee? What would get more a position that would bend that knee all the way?
Hero.
Supta Virasana.
Supta Virasana. Well, Supta Virasana, regular Virasana definitely gets this lower part. Supta Virasana will get more all four of them because you're stretching that hip out. Okay?
What about butterfly?
Baddha
No, Baddha Konasana is more abduction, external rotation, and these are hip flexors. So anything that extends, anything that will stretch your psoas will also get the quad, especially the one that crosses over the hip.
I got the front leg in the warrior series.
Front leg and warrior. It's stretching a little bit at the knee because the knee is bent and it's a knee extensor, but it's not like, oh, let's stretch our quads by doing this. So it is on stretch at the knee, but it's not on stretch at the hip because the hip is flexed. Yeah.
Pigeon and proposal, but in the back.
Yes. And Urdhva Yes, that one's getting a major hip flexion stretch. So you're crossing that rectus femoris is getting
Wheel.
full
Oh,
bend. The one I wanted him to jump into. Without warming up. So pigeon, that's really full pigeon. That's full pigeon. So Christy, we do pigeon like this, but full pigeon is really this. This is really gonna get because you're bending the knee and the hip. So you're really getting all that.
King dancer. Nadarajasana.
Yeah.
Standing back the same way.
Yeah. And that one, you want to look at that one not so much as a stretch for the hip flexor and quads, but more of they need to be stretched out to do it. You know, you're going to crank the back out because if you don't have it in the quad, it's going to go into the back. That's why a lot of people can feel back pain in pigeon when they come up and try to grab that back knee. Have you all experienced that?
What is that? I have a pain in my side butt and pigeon. What is that?
Is it a pain or a stretch? And is it the front leg or the back leg?
It gives me a lot of anxiety. It's very uncomfortable. Is it
In the front?
leg? Yeah.
When you do pigeon?
I have that too, and it's a sciatic, my sciatic nerve is pinched. I mean,
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. If it's not a good owl, it could be that the sciatic nerve is pinched because you're stretching that piriformis. And that piriformis, remember, that sciatic nerve goes over, through, or under.
I mean, I've been going to physical therapy for forever. It's still mine. But anyway, that's besides the point.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. It's right there, and I can't go into pigeon.
Yeah, think about that, you guys. Remember that pigeon in the front leg is stretching the piriformis, and remember that the piriformis is closely related to the sciatic nerve because of how it goes over, under, or through it. So if you're stretching a piriformis and you feel uncomfortable, it gives me anxiety feeling, and it will. When you're hitting a nerve, it is not fun. It can be stabbing, it can be tingling. So now, tingling can be lack of circulation because of compression that will go away as soon as you come out of a stretch. It's a little bit different, but yeah, then it could be the sciatic nerve, and I would say it probably is. So now, that's good that we brought it up, but now y'all know from experience if a student talks about it, if it's an icky anxiety feeling, it's not your glute stretching. It's probably pressure on the piriformis. Is it both sides?
Yeah, just the right.
Okay, so then you know that one side is your tight side. You got to work on it.
But I can't stretch it.
Well, you have to stretch it. You have to stretch it therapeutically,
Right.
and like I was talking to you, you have to. This is attached to your sacrum, so if you're a little bit off, sometimes if you have scoliosis, or if you just have scoliosis, not because it's genetic, but from just bad posture, we can kind of get it and get tighter on one side. You want to make sure that when you're in class stretching, that when you do one side or at home doing your yoga and you do another side, if you have a side that's significantly tighter, you do that more and address those imbalances in your body to start to bring everything more back into place. Do you see what I'm saying? Because if you're off, that piriformis on that side that hurts could be overworking and could be in spasm and shortening, and then when you're going to try to stretch it, it's too short, it's putting too much pressure on that nerve. So address those imbalances by addressing your tighter side more. Don't do equal on both sides if they're not equal. Okay. All right, what else do y'all have?
Frog bones.
Strengthening.
Oh, strengthening.
Are we on strengthening?
Strengthening.
Yeah, we'll come back to some of the stretching because I wanted to show y'all something.
Yeah.
For strengthening, we had tree pose.
You're standing?
Wait, which one? Yeah.
Standing.
The standing one is keeping the knee in extension, but okay, that's fair. It's keeping the knee in extension, so it's a little bit active. I'm sure if you stuck an EMG needle in there, electromyography, it would fire. Okay.
And eagle pose.
I would say an eagle is flexed at the hip, but it's not necessarily working. It is in a contracted position. Y'all understanding the difference, right? So Navasana would be a good one to strengthen. When you're in full Navasana, that's major thigh work.
What about Utkatasana?
Even with the knees bent.
Chair pose.
Chair pose. Yeah, and so remember the glutes are really the ones working there in an eccentric position. So the hips are in a flexed position and they definitely are contracted. But it's not necessarily like really working and strengthening there. They're just shortened there while the back of the body is really working. They're on slack in the front.
What about Warrior 2?
In the front leg, again, it's on slack. The glutes are working there.
Really, with that lunge? I mean,
The
that
back
lunging
leg, the
one?
back leg to keep that knee straight. It's working to keep the knee straight. Yes. Y'all have seen your students bend that back leg. You tell them to straighten it. Your quads have to activate to get that. Okay.
How about your inversions?
Real quick about inversions. Also, if you think about Warrior 2 in that back leg, when someone's bending it, it also causes a little bit of hip flexion. And someone who has tight hip flexors, it may be hard for them to straighten it. And so they're going to get a little bit of a stretch in that front. A lot of guys have that. And so straightening that leg will cause even more of a stretch. And that might be why they sort of bend it. It's sort of kind of slacking on that stretch a little bit. Inversions, Sharon? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah, listen, when you're upside down and right side up, everything's sort of active, but it's not, working towards this contracted position or anything like that. But yeah, you're working on keeping those knees straight when you're in headstand and shoulder stand. You're working on keeping knee extension to keep the legs straight. So, I would say bow pose, anytime you're doing like some core work.
What about plank?
Plank, yes, plank they're working to keep the knees straight.
What about this right forward fold?
Say that again.
Forward fold, no.
They're working.
You want them a
because
little
you're-
active, yeah. Remember we talked about we want them a little active.
But you're not going to be forward folding to strengthen your quads, you know what I mean?
Okay, wait a minute. In lunge and warrior. Okay, yes, sorry. Let's go back to those. They're slacking in the hip part, but they're working eccentrically in the quad part. I mean in the knee part. So sorry. All of these right here are working eccentrically in that front leg. This one, the one that crosses over the hip, is more on slack in this part. But yes, there is eccentric work at the knee, just like the glutes are working eccentrically, because if you think about it, if the glutes drop, the knee bends more, this is coming more into stretch, and so it is working eccentrically because you're fighting that. Does that make sense?
What pose are you talking about?
In
warrior
warrior
poses.
1, warrior 2, and lunge, where the front knee is bent. Yes, they're working at the place where they cross over the knee eccentrically. Does that make sense?
And like that high lunge.
Sorry, yes. Yeah,
The parallel lunge, even the back knee too.
yes, they're working eccentrically there. And when you bend that back knee, this part comes into more of like a stretch, and it's kind of working eccentrically also. That quad and that back leg, you don't even have to understand it completely. You'll feel when you're in a lunge. Yeah,
Yes.
but that's what's happening because it's on stretch and it's wanting to drop to the ground, which will get it in a little more stretch, and you're resisting that, so therefore it's working eccentrically. Yes, sorry about that. The lunges are definitely eccentric quad work at the knee.
What about would that be triangle to you?
In triangle, they're working to keep the knee straight, so they're working concentrically at the knee, but it's slacked at the hip, right? Because it's in flexion, kind of flexion.
An extended side angle.
Extended side angle. And
It's the same
eccentric
as the
in the
lunge,
front.
the warrior knee.
Lunge
It's the
leg.
same knee as warrior knee.
Bent front leg.
Revolve.
Oh yeah. Okay. Did y'all have any other ones? Did y'all have those on there? Did you think of them eccentrically? Okay.
No, but we did have warrior 1 and 2, but it
Warrior 1 for the back leg. Okay, yeah, and it is working the back leg concentrically. And also, y'all might read isometric contractions. Okay, so isometric means it's working, but you're not moving. So it's more like dynamic and static. Isometric is like static, and a lot of yoga is isometric. So you're not moving, but it's contracted. Movement. If I'm holding a cup and I'm working my biceps, this is not isometric.
Because it's kinetic.
Yeah, because it's kinetic. Because it's not isometric. But if I'm just holding it here and keeping this contracted, it is an isometric movement. A lot of yoga poses that you're holding, you're isometrically contracting because it's being held. Static and dynamic, isometric and kinetic. Okay.
is Ardishanjasana as well would be quad. I mean, just because you have to hold yourself up there.
Yeah, it's a quad in the bottom leg because it's keeping the knee straight. And if you think about, it's the same thing as forward folding.
Same
We
warrior
want our
three
quads to be a little active for a safe hamstring stretch. Right. Yeah. Quads are one and glutes are one that are, not active with daily movements. Really, you get them walking up hills and doing stairs. Okay. And does anyone have anything else?
Were these stretches all and strengtheners all for all 4 of the quads?
Well, no, because some of them, remember, the one crosses over the hip. So we were sort of just kind of.
I know, like camel was the rectus femoris, and it seemed like the rest of them we were talking
Camel
about
is
all 4.
mostly a stretch for the rectus femoris and a little bit here, but not that much because it's not fully bent. Supta Virasana gets at the hip because it's causing hip extension and at the knee.
I
So
like
all
that one that I
4.
showed with the block underneath the sacrum and you tuck the leg underneath.
Yeah,
What
supported
about wild thing?
Virasana. I don't know that one.
What does it look like?
It's flipped dog.
You know, where you're down dog and then you flip over so one arm.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're going into
That.
mostly in the hip. The knee
Right.
is because the
So
knee.
that would be the hip.
It's mostly hip. It's getting a little bit of all of them, but it's mostly in the hip. Really, it's Virasana and Supta Virasana and full pigeon that I showed y'all that's getting all 4. Because listen, Christy, this is how you want to think of it. If you're extending your hip and fully bending your knee, you're getting all 4.
You're extending your hip and fully bending your knee.
Yeah, because it's a knee extensor. So if you're bending it, it's stretching it, and it's a hip flexor. So if you're extending it, it's stretching it. So if you go into a lunge with your top of your foot down, this is a great way to get the hip flexors and to take some of the quads out. But if you go into a lunge and you keep the toes curled, that's putting the knee in a little bit of a bend, and it will make a huge difference in here and get more of the quad. Does that make sense? It's straining the quad more. If you want to isolate the hip flexors more and take the slack a little bit off the quad, you would keep the knee straight and only focus on a hip flexor
You
stretch.
could try and reach, because full pigeon sometimes is not as accessible, but if you reach around and grab the foot, sometimes that is a good quad stretch.
Yeah.
That's a little bit more accessible than full pigeon
Yeah.
from that.
She's saying
Lunge.
in that lunge.
Okay.
And that is a good quad stretch there.
Yeah, because you can back out of it. Where a pigeon, you're very low and
You're
very
so low,
stretched,
yeah.
right? And here you can kind of back out a little bit.
Yeah.
Back out of that.
And you can
flexion.
get that quad stretch a little bit more, it's a little bit more
And that's why,
accessible.
because you're going into less hip extension, and
Mhm.
so that will help understand why you can do that way. You can't bend it.
What about tree?
With tree, it's more of an abduction instead of flexion extension in the hip. Yeah, it is flex, but it's more external rotation and abduction. So it is working a little bit, but if you think about it, if you plant that foot on the inner thigh, you sort of hang.
No, sorry about chair. I'm sorry, chair. I wasn't, I'm
Chair,
I'm
okay.
seeing chair in my head and I'm
Okay.
saying tree. I'm sorry. What about?
In this part, it's eccentrically working here with the glutes. Yeah, remember we talked about that with Warrior 2? Eccentric here, because you're trying to get lower and lower, with gravity's pulling you lower and lower, and you're resisting that by keeping your hips in mid-air and fake sitting. So it's working eccentrically. Not just right here over the knee, but this part. It's not working this part up here. Yeah. This is on slack. Okay.
Fake sitting. Fake sitting, I like that term.
Yeah, fake sitting. Anytime you're fake sitting, you're getting the eccentric glutes and quads, but not these three. Well, this one too, but not where it crosses the neck. Okay, so those two joint muscles are a little bit tricky. Okay, then we have gastroc and anterior tib and peroneals. And let me tell you all, we should start with those, and let me tell you why. They're not that significant. I mean, they are very significant, but it's just the lower leg, and it's the end of the day. but it won't take long. What time is it? 3?
3.
Almost 2.
It's like 5.
We have the gastroc and the gastrocnemius and the soleus. We have the anterior tib and the peroneals, right? Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the posterior tib's on here too.
Yeah. Who did I give the posterior tib to?
I
Okay.
think we have all that, don't we?
We're the.
Yeah. Did I give you anterior, posterior?
Did we do the soleus?
You
doing
just
that.
gave us peroneus and anterior
anterior.
tib, but
Peroneals, yeah, there's 2 of those.
we're all, yeah.
Yeah, you can do the posterior tib.
We can get the posterior in there too.
All right, let's do the gastrocs and then we'll save y'all's group for last. So,
Okay.
The posterior.
It's on 64 of the edition 4 coloring book.
And it's 65 on the edition 3.
So, or it's one right here.
Okay. Let's see.
So it's the lower leg.
And do you want to start with the soleus? Does it matter?
you want to start with the deeper one.
The deeper one, which is the soleus. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna take this one. Okay. It starts. It starts right at the base of, or the posterior of the tibia. And actually, both, actually it's the tibia and the fibula. It goes down to,
Which one's
Yeah.
soleus.
2 different pieces for your soleus.
It ends at the calcaneus by way of the Achilles tendon. So it's kind of like, I'm trying to get this right.
Well, I'll show y'all and we'll palpate it.
It's kind of like there. Actually, it's probably more on this side.
Okay, bring your foot over. This is a calcaneus.
Okay, so I can do it long enough. Okay, thank you.
So the calcaneus is this bone that you feel right back here, and then you'll feel like a real rubbery Achilles tendon. That's the Achilles tendon, and so the soleus. Did it say the soleus goes in the Achilles
That's
tendon?
what, that's on that book right there?
Hold on, let me see what I have.
This one didn't.
I know
This one
I
says,
know the gastroc does.
Right, and this book, the
this
three,
one says gastroc goes down there.
and this
Yeah.
one said both. This one said the gastric and
Okay,
the
okay, let me see what I
soleus.
have. Let me see what I have real quick.
This one is saying that the
I thought
soleus
it
goes
was-
down to.
I thought it stopped like here.
No. It definitely goes down
Okay.
towards the calcaneus. And I just put calcaneus, so it's fine, and I'll just check it so it becomes tendinous down here
Okay.
with the Achilles tendon. That's fine. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, that's probably right. If it says it in here, it makes sense. I know that the other ones do, and they sort of all come together and merge into one being at the insertion anyway, so it's fine. The only difference where it starts to separate is at the origin. So we're going to say at the calcaneus, and if you want to say at the Achilles tendon, the calcaneus via Achilles tendon, that's fine. I'm comfortable with that. I don't think that's wrong.
And its origins is the tibia and the femur.
Yeah.
You need two pieces.
Okay.
It's two pieces.
Wait a minute, for the soleus?
For the soleus.
No.
It's what it says right here. Look.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay,
it's just
okay, you didn't say
covered.
femur,
It's just
yes,
covered,
yes,
yeah.
she said that, she has them both.
So you got
I thought you were saying femur, yeah.
It's
Okay,
kinda
it's just
there. It's
covered
kinda-
up.
No, she did say that, you guys,
She
she
did.
said both, right,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, and the action is the plantar flexion of the ankle. So it would flex the foot. Oops.
It would, yeah, plantar flexion is this,
Yes.
where everybody gets a cramp.
Yeah. So it's pointing.
Pointing or coming up on your tippy toes.
And to stretch, we went with an Adho Mukha Svanasana and
Downward facing
downward
dog.
facing dog. What's the other one too? Paschimottanasana. Could you
Yeah,
stretch
mhm.
that way?
Mhm.
And do you have any on yours that I don't?
Dandasana.
Dandasana. Feet
Mhm.
up. And plow.
Yeah.
Pressing back on the heel.
Yeah, okay, I'm thinking plank.
No, halasana, remember, we don't ever do it because of the bad neck stuff.
Yeah. It's kind of like when you go into shoulder stand. If you
Right.
Oh,
Remember, we
plow.
don't even,
Yes, yes,
don't
yes.
even show it because we're not gonna teach
Plow's
it.
plow's not that bad. Shoulder stand is worse, but yes, okay. It is in plantar flexion there, so you're talking about it's stretching there? No, it's contracted
Okay.
there, because it's plantar flex.
Oh, okay. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
What about malasana?
And to strengthen it, we did eagle.
Malasana, any kind of squats.
Garland.
If
Yeah.
you have your feet on the floor,
Yeah.
keep your feet on.
Even if you don't, because some people can't,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you why they can't, they're still gonna get a stretch.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Sorry.
So, did y'all have any of the squats in there?
I actually had garland, but I had it down for the gastric.
Which is pretty much the same thing. So.
Yeah, it's stretching it, both of them here. Yeah, okay.
And to strengthen, I said we had Uttanasana, can't say that one. Chair pose, thank you. And eagle.
Wait. Utkatasana to strengthen it? Is that
Yeah,
what you said?
yeah.
No, it would stretch it. Because if you think about it, so
Okay.
it's in dorsiflexion, not plantar flexion, and so it's stretching it at the ankle,
Okay.
right?
Yeah,
That
because
makes
these are
sense?
going down the back of your
Yeah,
legs, so when you
right.
do this, it's
So
just
it's-
stretching
yeah.
it out.
How would we strengthen
Warrior
it?
3.
We
Okay.
got
Calf raises.
on your toes. We said Navasana,
Yeah.
Garudasana.
Yeah. Anytime you point your toes, so if you do Navasana with the toes pointed, yeah, it's working, but really it's coming onto your toes. So we don't really.
Pilates will.
Ballet.
Toe taps. You have those core on the back with the knees bent and you tap the toes.
It's active there, and so I want y'all to know with yoga you are in positions where it's active or contracted, but for the most part, we're not really strengthening it unless we're doing heel raises or whatever, toe raises. I call when you lift the heels.
Lift your heel.
Yeah,
What
and
about
that's a really great balancing
goddess?
one too.
I mean the goddess when you lift, when you're
You
lift
lift
one
the
heel
heels.
and then the other.
Yeah, okay, anytime you do that,
How about a lunge with the back leg? Going
you,
up and down.
yeah, you can do that, and I would think it would get it more stretching. I'll tell y'all, stairs work your calves in eccentric position, but I want y'all to know, with calves, you're not really strengthening them that much, but I kind of feel like those really need more stretching than anything. But you can do heel raises for balance, and I like to do that every once in a while for balancing, where I just have them go up and down their heels, and it's like a dynamic tree, or mountain or whatever, just up in, or dynamic tadasana. That's really it. There are positions where it is shortened and contracted, but we're not really strengthening it a whole lot in a contracted position. There's a little bit of eccentric happening when we're in squats, where it is on stretch, but depending on how the squat is, it may be working in that eccentric position where it's long and gravity is kind of making you want to go more into maybe a dorsiflex position, and so it's a little resisting that, especially like for those of you who do squats like this, you know, and gravity's wanting to go this way and you're kind of resisting that. It's kind of eccentric there. But that's just one annoying one. We will talk about stretching it though more. So you are stretching it in those squats. You are stretching it or lengthening it more, like in these positions, dandasana, or when you're pulling on it. You can lengthen and stretch it a little bit. Down dog mostly is going to give you a great stretch for that in squatting.
So we'll practice chair with lifted heels
Yeah.
sometimes.
Oh, good. Okay, I've never done that.
And
That's
then-
interesting. Okay,
It's
that's
an awful balance practice.
But you guys, yeah, that's eccentric, and so anytime you're in a squat with the heels up, like I was saying, then that's an eccentric contraction. So if you're in Utkatasana where it's on stretch, then you lift your heels, and the tendency is for it to want to go down, then that would be very much eccentric. Yeah. Do y'all see that? How the heels are trying to fall down, which will make it longer, which will make it eccentric work. So they're working a little bit there, but okay. So for stretching, I always talk about. Let's do the soleus, and I'll show you how to isolate the gastrocs and the soleus in your down dog stretches. Because there's a way to get the soleus only, and a way to get the gastrocs involved.
This was the soleus, right?
This was the soleus, because it only crosses over the ankle. All right. So the gastrocs, are you gonna do that one?
Sure.
Okay.
So the origin of the gastrocnemius, did I say that right?
Mm-hmm. Gastrocnemius, and you can just call them gastroc. It's gastrocs because there's two bellies.
I'm just going to start with the short piece, even though it's a long muscle, because it originates on both sides of the base of the posterior femur, and it's going down the back of the leg. Where did it go? I guess I should just have made that one longer. Okay, and so on both sides of the posterior femur, and its attachment is the same place as the soleus. And all right, which is the calcaneus. Right underneath the Achilles tendon where she was pointing earlier. So yeah, this does a little V thing and meets here and goes down the back.
Yeah, and I think that they're both coming into the Achilles tendon, which is attaching to the calcaneus. So you can say its origin, its point of insertion is the Achilles tendon that attaches to the calcaneus via the Achilles tendon. But it's you need a tendon before you get to the bone anyway. So, but the Achilles tendon is a very prominent tendon, so that's why it's giving it more thought. But we don't talk about the other tendons that are used for insertion. But it's at the Achilles tendon, it's at that calcaneus. Neither one is wrong. Okay, so you have two of those muscles, and they cross over the knee joint. So if we were to stretch our calves in downward dog, which you had that, right? You had it for stretching. So if we do downward facing dog, and we wanted to isolate the soleus, how do we isolate the soleus and only stretch the soleus and slack on we have to slack on this muscle so we can get underneath here. How do we only stretch the soleus part of our calves?
Bend your knees.
Good. You would bend the knee, and why? You do know why.
I mean, does it sort of lengthen that part back there?
Well, think about what you're doing at the knee. What are you doing at the knee to the gastrocs? You're slacking them so that they aren't stretching and they're not getting in the way, and you can get deeper. Yeah. And so what I'll do is I'll have the class do, like, I'll have them bend their knees, and then still with the knee bent, reach down with the heels. So let's just try that real quick, get some blood flow to the brain. And I'll guide y'all through the soleus and the gastrocs. So just socks off, you'll slide. Oh, sorry. Okay, come into down dog and do a straight leg, straight knee, extended knee, hips, feet hip width, stretching the heels down. Keep the knees totally straight. And feel what that stretch is like. Okay? Now, lift the heels and put a little bend in your knees, and keep those knees, the hips, deep fold in the hips. And now, stretch just the right heel down, but not enough to completely straighten the leg. And that stretch should feel different than the one with the knees straight.
Yep.
Okay, and then do the other side. And that's getting your soleus. If you're now straighten both legs and reach the heels down, if you just get the gastroc, for some people, the gastrocs are so tight, you're not getting into the soleus as much as you can. So it's good to kind of play around with how you stretch the calves by slacking on the gastroc sometimes, because some people need that slack to get deeper into the body. Not everyone, most of you don't, even though you feel a difference, so you need a little bit of it, but most people go to yoga and stick with yoga because they're real flexible and stretching anyway.
Lifting your toes do that too.
What do you mean? Well,
Like if I'm here, like if I lift, if I
lifting your toes will give you more of a stretch at the ankle, so all the calves, but if you bend the knee, you're slacking the gastrocs.
Yeah.
So reaching the heel down or lifting the toes up, yes, it gives you more of an intense stretch at the ankle part, but we're talking about how to isolate by slacking at the knee. Okay? So that's a little fun thing and a little way, because if you understand it at the calf, it'll give you more understanding also in other areas. But I want you to know how you can get deeper into the calf. All right, so that's good. Do y'all have anything else on that?
Well, we need to talk about strengthening. I put Phalakasana.
Which one?
Phalakasana plank.
Okay. A little bit, because it's a knee extensor, and if you're keeping your knees straight, no, it's a flexor, sorry. So, I wouldn't say it's working in plank. I'm not saying it's not active. The whole body's plank.
Gastroc, so we're on the bigger one now.
Neither one of them are really working in plank.
Okay.
Really, the calves really aren't. I mean, like, if you did a plank, and you did more, like, you came forward or more back, you can stretch it more this way, it would come more into plantar flexion. So they may be a little bit active, yeah. But they're contracted depending on how your foot is in plank, because it can be different ways. If you have a rock forward and back in plank, you've gotten toe flexion, plantar flexion, and dorsiflexion. So we can do a little stretching there, a little contraction there. It's firing. Okay.
So it sounded like a lot of the things that really help with strengthening are dynamic movements and some of our standing poses, but I don't really know names for that other than calling it dynamic block. So I didn't know what to put for that.
Yeah, and like anytime you're lifting your heels up and down, or even if you're just keeping them lifted, like if you were to do a balancing just on the tippy toes.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, that's a good one. And I will say this, you guys. Your anterior tib, your front and back part of your leg, your gastrocs and your anterior tib, they really are active in standing in one leg, on that grounded leg, because they're stabilizing that leg. So they're firing, but they're not necessarily fully stretched or contracted. Okay. So anytime you are standing, your foot flexors, the muscles that flex your toes, they're active anytime you're standing on one leg. So there is firing and activity in that leg there, in the lower leg of the standing leg.
Are we on strengthen or stretch?
We're just off of it. We're just kind of talking about the fact that we're everywhere. Yeah.
All those muscles down there just kind of.
That's one where you're not like, oh, this is a great pose to strengthen the calves necessarily. But yes, they're active in some of them. And it also depends on how you're doing what you're doing.
Especially with the next ones.
I know. The next ones, we just need to talk about them because they're there. And like I said, these next ones that y'all are Caroline's gonna do, those are active in the standing leg. They're active when you're doing any kind of standing positions. They really are. There is one, Parsvottanasana. When you're in Parsvottanasana, the calves are working pretty good actually here because when you're in this position, you keep the ball of the foot down, and so it is active here because it's like pressing on the gas pedal. So there is activity there, and it's stretching a lot in that back leg. Did y'all have that on there?
Is that a stretch?
Yeah, it's stretching the back,
Yeah,
and then it's sort of contracting here because it's plantar flexion.
I actually had it as a stretch,
Yeah.
not a strength. but-
Well, and look, if you do this, you can stretch the front leg. Okay, that's a good way to stretch it. And I'm getting the gas off, and if you bend the knee and put the toes up, it's getting rid of the sole. It's happening.
And that's
Parsvottanasana.
Then she said you're stretching it.
Parsvottanasana, excuse me, Tanasana.
I know.
And our side ankle.
I think Parsvottanasana, it's with a T, like Uttanasana, like a fourfold. And Parsvottanasana is more like triangle, because you're more open to the side. The K looks more like the opening in triangle, and the T is more like this. That's how I remember it.
Konasana is more like angle.
Yeah.
Konasana, like body Konasana is down angle.
Parsvottanasana.
You got an angle, you got the haven.
Okay.
Anterior, so I said it was.
Oh,
we did that one, so posterior was medial.
No, the gas pedal is strengthening.
Yeah,
it's the
base of.
Flex is stretching.
And it's responsible for the
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, both gastroc and
Yeah.
all your calves. Because look, the calves do. Okay. If you press your toe, your foot down, like you're pressing gas pedal, that's contracting the calves. Well, all of them. I know. And that is just like
Start at the
doing
top
this.
and go down, so we'll start with the anterior.
Yeah, they try to do that.
Okay, do we want to do that one? Do we want to do this one? You
And
can
then
do a
if you
C
lift
of
it
that?
up, you're stretching under here.
Okay, do you want to switch sides?
Yeah. Do it again, and then lift your toes up like this. Really lift, and you're stretching the calves. Feel that? And you're also working the front of the muscle, the front of the leg, which you're about
So
to
you're
get to.
starting posterior?
posterior, yeah.
Okay.
Let's just blow through it.
Alright, so we're starting with the posterior tibialis, which,
Wait, you guys, they're gonna do the last group of muscles. I know it's a lot.
which is, and it's really exciting.
Hang in there. Remember, we don't have to be back tomorrow for another 10 hours. It's not for another month. And, but when we're done, I need to talk to y'all real quick. Just make sure we know what we're doing. Okay.
So that's right here.
So the posterior tibialis, the origin is the medial tibia, and the insertion is the plantar surface of the foot, the base of the metatarsals.
Posterior tib.
Posterior.
Can you say that
Tib.
again? Yeah, slow down because
Sorry.
I'm like,
Sorry,
no, you're not moving
muscle?
fast.
Posterior.
posterior tibia.
Posterior tibialis or tibialis posterior.
Posterior medial tib, so it's kind of the middle of the tib, and it's going to the plantar surface of the foot at the base of the metatarsals.
All right, so your metatarsals are like your carpal bones. You have tarsal bones. They're a bunch of little bones that come together
Before the
before the walk. Yeah. So before these bones here.
In my book, it's 66. I've got the old book.
Your carpals, your tarsals are here, you guys, and it's attaching at the bottom. It's in the back and attaching at the bottom.
And it is responsible for plantar flexion.
Yes, so anything we talked about with the calves, the posterior tibialis is going to be working with that, okay? So you can say the posterior tib just like calves, okay? That'll make that easier.
Which one do you
And
want
it's
to
a
do?
very, it's a deep muscle.
I'm going to do anterior.
I want to laugh too, what do y'all laughing about?
Is that just like a cat?
Okay.
Okay.
I thought you said cat was just a big toe,
I know. You're like, well, she's making no sense.
Oh, yeah.
Like the calves. If that doesn't make sense, it's because I didn't say it.
It's right here.
At this point, I'm like,
Okay.
All right, then we're moving to the anterior tibialis. The origin is the lateral side of the tibia, posterior lateral side. Oh,
lateral side of the tibia.
Are y'all doing the peroneals?
Yeah, we were gonna do it
Okay.
last. Sorry.
No, what are y'all doing now?
The interior tibia.
Okay.
So we're on the lateral side of the tibia, and it's gonna
This
cross.
side.
Yes.
Anterior lateral tibia.
Yeah, sorry.
So we're in the front
In
of
the
the leg
front.
now.
Yes.
To the big toe.
And it's going.
It's gonna cross around and under the medial arch.
Uh-huh,
Yeah.
right here, you got it?
You got it.
Right here. Yeah?
It crosses where?
It's gonna here.
It's going from right here, and then it goes around and
under
under.
the medial
Remember,
arch.
right, so like when
That one that goes under here.
The wrapping of the
Here,
muscles
around
start here.
here.
It's like the sartorius up here, because
Yeah.
it swirls around.
It kind
It's
of
a
well.
swirl.
Oh, we did it on the right side because it matches right here.
Yeah.
That was kind of a good idea.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so that muscle does what?
Oh, sorry. Dorsiflexion and it's
Extensors.
inverting of the foot.
And if you
Right.
think
So
about
that's
it, yeah, it goes here, so it's pulling it like
It's
this.
lifting the big toe side of the foot
Up.
up.
Up and
Okay, this
out.
muscle, yeah, good. So if you stretch your legs out and touch the lateral side of your shin bone,
Oh, excuse me.
your tibia, and you dorsiflex, it's a very easy muscle to feel. Okay? The belly of the muscle is about right here, mid shaft. A little bit higher.
Overdeveloped and tap dancers.
Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Is that well? No, shin splints would be more.
Shin splints can be anterior or posterior tibs.
Okay.
Yeah, they can be both.
And then our last ones are the peroneals, and they also start on the lateral side of.
And they're more lateral than the anterior tib. Yeah.
Okay. Look at that spelling there. And then their insertion is moved on lateral side of the pinky toe because that's our medical terminology.
Outside of that.
It didn't really say in the book exactly what the insertion point was, so
It
we
just
kind of
showed
looked at
us.
it. Look,
Because it's got them,
Fifth metatarsal, so it's got
Okay,
them.
okay.
right, it's got them over here, but
Okay.
then it's also showing this group down coming here to the.
Okay, hold on, those are probably the toe flexors.
See how it comes to
Wait,
the
see
side
where
of the.
65 and the new ones before.
And then it's.
So it is. So it's the,
Oh, okay, right, because there's two, so the brevis goes to the right. Okay, yeah, there's two bellies, you guys. You have the peroneal brevis and longus, is that, yeah. And it also, you'll see in some literature called fibularis,
Yeah.
mhm.
okay? Yeah, okay, so the brevis goes to the fifth metatarsal,
Okay.
right? And the other ones go over to the aponeurosis or the
Right, which is
ligaments of the toe extensors.
it's doing this,
Uh-huh.
lifting up this.
So they're everters.
Yeah.
They're everters because they're on the side, so they attach here. So when they contract, they're pulling this and this close together. What is this one called? Peroneal, brevis, and longus. They're on the side of your lower leg. They're lateral to the anterior tib. They do inversion.
Oh, I thought you said eversion. Okay.
Eversion.
Evert,
Sorry.
yeah, the
That's-
evert.
I'm doing eversion, but I'm saying inversion
Okay.
because
The
you know
evert,
what
yeah.
time of day it is. And does it do a little dorsiflexion? One of them
Yes.
does. Yeah. Okay. If you think about where it is, it would make sense because it's
Yes.
pulling this together.
And where those are attached, just pulling that foot back.
Right. Okay. That was all of them?
Mhm.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can pretty much put the peroneals, well, the anterior tib does inversion, the peroneals do eversion, and so they're sort of stabilizers when your foot's neutral. So they're active to keep that stable. You can bring the posterior tib and the gastrocs, you can put those together.
And they're working so much, and because think about all your foot's in dorsiflexion anytime you're in standing poses and standing asanas.
And it's working it's like when you're in standing or balancing, it's like you have in your muscles, you have receptors, and they're called proprioceptors. And it's like your brain, it's like there's a cord that goes through and plugs into your muscles. And when your muscles contract, or when the brain, the body's about to fall, and the muscles need to contract so that you're not falling over, the brain tells the muscle to contract through these proprioceptors. So basically, if you're standing and you're balancing and you're wobbling, all those muscles are working together to do the right thing so that you're not going this way, and you're not going that way, or you're not going this way, or you're not going that way. They're all working in balancing poses. And so the proprioceptors are active. You're strengthening your proprioception, which is your sense of balance. And all those muscles are firing to keep that leg stable so that you don't fall over. So that balance is strength. And it's those proprioceptors in the muscles and the brain talking to each other fast enough to stay balanced. So when you're working on balancing, your muscles have to be strong. That's part of your balance. Strong muscles help you balance. If you're weak in your legs, your proprioceptors are stale, your balance will be off. So the wobbling is your muscles contracting and all those muscles working to be stable. So, okay, so what time is it? 3:21. Okay, 3:30?
Yeah.
Okay. We're supposed to be here 10 hours. I think we're going to wrap it up. Now, do y'all have my, okay, if y'all were to email me, it would go into my junk mail. So Debbie asked me for her group, what's the best way to contact me if you need it, and I said text. Because I won't get your email. The way I use my Hotmail, I'm not talking about why I'm not using my Mac anymore, but ever since iCloud, there's a problem. So basically, I use my Hotmail and it throws everything into junk mail unless y'all are in my contact list. So if you have a question, you can text me and let me know you sent me an email, and then that way I know to look for it in the junk mail. Y'all can text me or email me about anything, anytime, and I will guide you through it. Things are going to come up as you move along in the teacher training, maybe, that you want to ask me a question about. I will say this: last year, someone emailed me and said, okay, with this pose, is this muscle working? And then with this pose, which one are we really stretching? And they had like all these kind of questions. And so I asked them, okay, you tell me what you think it is, and then I'll tell you if it's right. So that's how, because me telling you isn't going to help you. So that's how I'm going to approach any questions like that. If you have a question about something, say, I think it's this and this is why, is that right? And if not, I'll help you. Because I won't help you by just giving you the answer. But feel free to ask me anything. Next time we meet is going to be March 8th, 10 hours. We could have technically had a few more breaks and finished at 5, but since we did not take as many breaks, it's only fair that we leave a little early, because we had, what, 2 breaks and lunch, or 1 break and lunch?
1 break.
Okay, so it's fair that we're finishing early. I think y'all would prefer it that way?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we did take an hour lunch, we took like 30 minutes. So we're going to finish early. If you didn't color the upper body portion yet, Sharon liked coloring while we were talking about the muscle. Okay? So we're going to, you feel free to do it that way if you want. If you've got stuff going on in your life and this is stressing you out, don't do it that way. Color when you're here. But do fill out that form. Any questions about that form that you still are confused about that you want to know for next time?
Were we supposed to turn something in to you today?
I wanted y'all to turn it in because I wanted y'all to do it.
Okay, so are you
Even if it's totally
Something?
wrong.
Origin and insertion?
I don't want it.
Okay, because I made better notes on it today, so I'd hate to give that to you.
No, keep your copy. I just wanted y'all to bring a copy of what y'all already did. But do it next time because I am going to at least just look at it. And let me tell you why. It's already a lot of information, and it's better when you see it and read it for the first time. So like I said, if you don't color and you want to bring your pencils and color as you go, we can do that. We're covering the upper body, and we're going to have to do the paraspinals and the core, the abdominals next time, which we'll have time for because the upper body is quicker. Okay, is there something y'all would like to do more of next time for the upper body? Do you want to do more stopping in asana? I feel like we did enough stopping in asana without slowing us down too much. Do y'all feel like you need more of that?
No, because there's not much.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean,
Okay, because sometimes it's maybe too much movement, y'all are kind of comfortable. Okay, so,
Can we have your number, please?
yes, my number is, and it's best if you just let me know that you sent me an email. That would be good, because I won't get the email. So my number is 335-4465. It's area code 901. And just let me know if you sent me an email so I can look for it. Otherwise, I won't get it and you'll think I'm ignoring you.
Oh, what's your email?
MaggieReese@hotmail.com.
All one word?
Yeah, MaggieReese.
Thank you.
I don't know, question. When we're tested, are we gonna be tested over stuff like the origin and insertion points?
No, the test is going to be functional for y'all. I'm going to ask y'all
It's 901.
questions like things that we've talked about here. But
921.
like I think last year I said, if you're in Warrior
2850.
1, what muscle